Dear God, this game is so exceedingly insufferable that even simply watching someone else play this dumpster fire is a form of torture all its own. It's hard to overstate what a failure this game is in terms of writing, characterization, and gameplay. Every character is obnoxious far beyond the point of absurdity, except one. At least until he randomly goes crazy and turns into a cartoon villain. The goals and motivations of pretty much everyone is nonsense, and a good 90% of the main story either feels like filler, or is simply filler outright. The game starts at Saints HQ, in the middle of a party, as an aged businessman comes to make a deal with the Saints. You're given the character creation screen, after which your character records a video, essentially trying to recruit more people into the gang. The video then glitches as your character's body is being dragged away. Your character is known only as the boss throughout the game, so I'm simply going to call them that for the rest of the video. The boss is tossed into a grave and buried alive, with a giant mound of dirt on top of them, and their phone left on top for some reason. Cut to a few months earlier and the boss is watching the orientation video for Marshall, a private military company that they're working for, because the boss is interested in their healthcare plan.
Why are you watching that now?
It's the orientation video.
I know what it is. Why are you watching it now?
Well, I mean, we're about to be shot at, so I figured it couldn't hurt to brush up on our healthcare package.
Which wouldn't be in an orientation video. This is interrupted by the boss's commanding officer. There's a bit of a back and forth, but it's unimportant. It's basically just establishing the tired old trope of the horrible megacorporation that doesn't care about its employees in the slightest, and that the boss is an annoying jokey jokester who won't shut the fuck up. It's the boss's first day working for Marshall, and the first assignment is to take down the Nawali, the leader of what's supposed to be an incredibly dangerous gang, I guess. Your squad immediately gets blown to hell, and the boss is knocked about by several explosions. This is a wacky cartoon world, so I'll ignore the fact that these blasts will have liquefied the boss's organs. Instead, I'll simply point out how shit the animations are. It looks like the boss is doing stunt diving for a low-budget B-movie, rather than actually being thrown about by the blasts. You kill some generic nameless goons, most of whom conveniently stand next to highly explosive objects in a bombastic set piece, as the boss constantly talks back to their commanding officer, Gwen. This goes on for the duration of the mission, and rather than coming across as endearing, it only proves the boss to be an utterly insufferable shithead who can't read the fucking room. It would be one thing if the boss was actually saying something funny, but it's all just the lowest tier quips essentially being spammed at you.
Better hustle, newbie. Bravo team is ready to move in.
I'm not exactly pausing for tea time here.
Newbie, you still alive?
You sound like you lost the pool. Yeah. You lot fucked the wrong multinational private military corporation. Hey, this may be a weird time to ask, but do we get hazard pay?
You get a performance bonus for outstanding work, if you survive to collect it.
Righto. Just trying to understand the pay structure. Gwen, hello, do you read me?
Newbie, you're still alive?
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
The Nawali's hold up in the saloon up ahead. Rendezvous with the rest of us and we can box him in.
In a minute. Gonna clear out some goons first.
I gave you an order.
It's on my way. Besides, we don't want them coming up behind us later.
Fine. But next time I give an order, the only words I want to hear are yes and ma'am. Got that?
Yes ma'am.
This is what happens when you defend stupid silly bullshit, because previous entries had some silly elements to them. It lowers the bar to the point you need an excavator to fucking dig it up, which is actually a pretty great way to describe Saints Row 2022. I've always found it extremely irritating that some people see something silly in a game or movie and just give it a carte blanche pass on any stupid or silly bullshit that the series may go on to do in the future, no matter how absurd it gets. While the first two Saints Row games absolutely had silly and over-the-top elements to them, it was restrained to the point of essentially being a Grand Theft Auto clone.
So what's in here? Guns? Money? Some uncut shit? Shoes?
Actually, they're this season's new.
Bullshit, that's last year's fall collection.
That's not true.
Just let it go, man. No reason to piss off Manuel.
Saints Row 2 is where the series really established its identity, with some really good writing, yet still having a sense of humor. Saints Row 3 jumped the shark like it was going out of fucking style. If anything, Saints Row now stands as a pretty strong example of flanderization happening to an entire series, as each entry just cranked up the craziness more and more, to the point all anyone sees it as is Grand Theft Auto but wacky. Now with some great writers you can pull that off and make it work. Saints Row 1 was a decent game, 2 was a great game, and 3, it was entertaining. But with politically motivated talentless hack writers, you get the steaming pile of dog shit that is Saints Row 2022. Eventually you're ordered to man a turret on an APC, and after shooting enough baddies, the driver somehow gets shot, resulting in the APC to ghost ride through the town with the boss in it, and it crashes in a cave, trapping the boss inside. What I want to know is, how the hell were they able to shoot the driver? It's an armored vehicle, it's in the fucking name. They're not exactly easy to shoot through. The boss eventually catches up with Gwen, and after a firefight, you're sent in to flush out the Nawale, who easily escapes from you. Back outside there is a VTOL that is for some reason hovering at roof level with the building, even though there's no reason to do this, and only serves as a security risk and a danger to everyone. No, not because he's hovering 30 feet off the ground, but because he can apparently hijack these things from the outside like it's nothing. The Nawale jumps onto it from the roof, opens the hatch, and throws the pilot out. How absurdly fucking convenient for him that the VTOL that had no reason to be here was hovering at a height he shouldn't have been, near a building he shouldn't be near, and that this extremely highly advanced piece of military equipment had the absurd design flaw that someone could just open the cockpit from the fucking outside while it's running. The boss has the bright idea to throw a grappling hook from the APC onto the VTOL before it takes off. Look, I'm no military expert, and Saints Row is so far outside of reality that it can probably be classified as fantasy, but that is one chonky fucking bird. There's no way hooking an APC to it is going to stop it. This is also once again the boss acting like an idiot, because we need our bombastic bullshittery in this game, I guess. The VTOL takes off with the APC with the boss in it. It eventually hits a natural arch and gets caught, preventing it from flying further. The boss slides down the cable to land on the VTOL. They try to get the Nawale to give up, but naturally he angles the VTOL so the boss will fall off instead. Luckily, the boss grabs onto part of the vehicle so they don't fall off, because fighter jets are so well known for having indents deep enough to grab onto and reduce how aerodynamic it is. While holding on, you've got to shoot some of the Nawale's gang members, and this whole portion of the mission just feels like an on-rails shooter. Like the kind you'd play in arcade like 30 years ago, where once you kill enough enemies, the vehicle spins around to show more enemies running out. You then get a cutscene of the boss fighting the Nawale, in which he immediately kicks their ass, but the boss ends the fight by kicking a gun into the engine, causing the VTOL to careen out of control and crash next to where it first took off from. Wait a second, how did the gun even fit into the vent for the engine? Oh, they just shrunk the model, because even the developers realized how fucked this was, but made no actual attempt to fix it. The Nawale grabs the boss, somehow completely forgetting that this Old West town is full of martial soldiers. They finally get him to surrender, with the boss pathetically choking out,
I caught him!
not even half an hour into the game, and I already want every single character I've seen to swing from a fucking tree. Especially the boss. After dressing your character in whatever clothes you please, Gwen shows up with your performance bonus. The envelope is empty because the boss fucked up and endangered people. At least that's what would have been said in a good game. Instead, it's simply because you didn't follow orders. Gwen even says that had the boss been in charge, it would have been an inspired decision, even though it was reckless, stupid, and only served to endanger everyone. Gwen puts the boss on notice: fall in line or find a new job. You then get to drive home as the boss angrily yells fuck over and over again, because that's how being mad works, I guess.
Fucking fuck. Fuck, fuck, fuckity fuck. Fuck, fuck, fuckity fuck, fucking fuck, fuck. Shit. Goddamn fucking shit. Goddamn fucking shit.
balls on a side order, a mother-loving shit-smoking, piss-covered ass crack!
Well, what your character says exactly may depend slightly on which voice you picked. If you pick the southern accent, he'll say balls over and over again.
Fall in line. Balls.
Are you Oh no, chat. Nobody fucking talks like this.
Goddamn cow balls and a pizzle stick between. Horse balls. Big, giant, sweaty horse balls.
My fucking god.
Big, giant, sweaty, dangling horse testes just swinging in the goddamn breeze, knocking back and forth like a pair of motherfucking clappers in a giant horse flesh crotch bell.
Fall in line. Bugger that. Bugger, bother, and bloody bollocks. Bugger, bother, and bloody sodding bollocks. Great shite full of manky, gormless, part trumpet and codswallow.
Let me just quickly say, as someone who swears when they get mad, I don't just say fuck 30 times in a row like that. This is obnoxious and stupid. Speaking of obnoxious and stupid, meet the gaggle of brain-dead, limp-wristed, chuckle-fucking cunts that will be plaguing us for the next 7.5 hours of gameplay. Never before has the sweet siren song of the noose seemed more inviting and comforting than it does at this very moment. This is one of the most stupid pieces of writing I've ever seen, and I've experienced all this shit. But your roommates are from different gangs. Neenah is from the Panteros, Kevin is from the Idols, and Eli is just some weird rando who happens to be here, I guess. None of them have any redeeming qualities. I don't know what circus is missing their clown, but I do know they're in the writer's room at Volition. Neenah, Kevin, Eli, and the boss form the Voltron of shit that is the Saints in this game, but that comes just a bit later. For now, Kevin is begging for money to buy a $300 waffle iron, because his gang doesn't pay him, I guess. Eli makes a quip about the Idols paying Kevin an exposure. Get it? That's the meme where companies will try to get out paying artists for their work by saying the exposure will bring them more business. This leads directly into an incredibly clunky line of dialogue from Kevin, who explains the entire point of the Idols. They want to build a post-capitalist society where money isn't a concept. In any other game, they'd be a parody of the stereotypical Californian communist, in which they preach about bringing down big business while tweeting it out from their iPhone and drinking Starbucks. Because the writing is so piss poor in this game, however, they end up being a contradiction and no one ever seems to acknowledge the hypocrisy, and that the Idols will talk about bringing the corporate machine down, while at the same time driving expensive upper-class highly modified cars, as well as the jet skis and even a yacht. They have high-tech display helmets and all sorts of other very expensive looking shit, and all of them look like they just came out of a rave. They can't even keep their shit straight amongst themselves, in which they'll claim they'd be fighting for the little guy, but then also claim that there's only the Idols and the machine, which gives them carte blanche to fuck over even small businesses because they're part of the system. As for gang activities, they're on about the tier of vegans protesting outside of Burger King, or low-level eco-terrorists, in which they'll hassle people and steal petty shit because they think it accomplishes their goals. Not to imply they aren't violent, they absolutely are, but the main point is that they don't seem to be actually doing anything to advance their goals, and they're only fucking around and partying in this one town that exists within the game. In fact, their whole ideology comes off as a poor excuse to be a nuisance, but this is never acknowledged as far as I've seen. The ultimate issue with the Idols is the same for any idealized version of communism. That is to say, no one wants to work in the fucking coal mines. There's a few things we need to continue existing, food and water chief among them, followed by shelter and protection from the elements. There's a very long chain of industry that keeps our society running, that is necessary to enjoy all the comforts we've got today, a good 90% of which either didn't exist or were uncommon even 100 years ago. You sometimes see weirdos on Twitter talking about how in the communist utopia, they'd be poets or artists, but the reality is almost everyone would want the easy life, meaning no one in the coal mines to keep society afloat, meaning those in power would force those who aren't to either work the coal mines or face the fucking wall. Otherwise, you face a total collapse of supply chains and energy production and other such things. If no one is working the oil rigs, we don't get gas or diesel. Without these two fuel sources, farming equipment won't work, nor will most methods of transporting goods. Now the big cities no longer have a sustainable supply of food. See the problem? As high a life as the idols seem to like to live, it would be impossible to continue it the moment they achieve their goals. Who would make their stupid display helmets? Who would make their weapons? Their cars? Where would the materials come from? You can only steal so much until we return to the issue of who is going to work the mines. The idols don't work, so they steal a car. They want to modify it, so they steal the parts. Maybe they go so far as to acquire both the skill and equipment to make the parts themselves. But where are the base materials going to come from? Now granted, the game does repeatedly treat them as though they're a joke, but then why in the world would you make one of your main enemy factions this stupid to the point everyone seems to think they're idiots? It only serves to undermine them as a threat, rather than a gang that is malicious and vengeful, violent, ruthless, cunning, merciless, callous, or cruel. It shows us a gang that isn't taken seriously, that everyone thinks is a joke, and the only reason they ever pose any kind of threat is because the developers gave them guns, rather than them actually filling a role within the world that justifies the level of power and influence they have. The gangs from the original two games never felt like a joke. They were a force to be reckoned with, intent on wiping out their enemies, which was frequently you and the rest of the Saints. Meanwhile, the idols spend their time stealing cheap kids' toys from McDonald's, stealing packages from porches, and taking selfies mid-combat. Which brings me to their special enemy type. This fucker with spinning glow sticks that gives them an immunity to bullets. Yeah, I don't get it either. Apparently plastic tubes with neon-colored gel can withstand and deflect gunfire. They're more irritating for this fact than anything else. At least they're not immune to rockets. When they stop spinning, they'll throw one of the glow sticks as a ranged weapon, and it actually boomerangs back to them even though there's nothing obvious that would make them return. This is only a very brief window to shoot though, and even on the easiest difficulty this will take a couple cycles to fully take one of them down. This doesn't make them a difficult enemy, just tedious and annoying to fight. As mentioned, they will also sometimes stop to take a selfie, because that makes total sense when someone is shooting at you and trying to kill you. Anyways, Kevin pressures him into donating a few bucks, and is upset when he only gets $35. Immediately, Kevin is shown to be an entitled piece of shit, expecting his friends to pay for his shit because he decided to work for a gang that doesn't believe in money. This is a group of people who not 30 seconds from now are explained to be very poor, with the four of them combined not able to cover the rent on their own. Partially because the boss's dumb fucking ass lost their bonus pay by ignoring orders in a military organization. We then get the boss complaining about needing the job to pay their student loans.
Okay, I don't have to love it. I have to pay my student loans.
Amen.
Yes, that's really how fucking inane this game is. My absolute favorite part of any game about being in a gang is paying off student loans. The best mission in San Andreas is when CJ had to drive down to the bank to pay off his student loan. At least this game has a fairly accurate depiction of people with college degrees. Broke, jobless, not working in their field of study, and living with a bunch of weirdos. Further showing how stupid the boss is, after mentioning they didn't get their bonus, Eli is suddenly concerned about rent money. A bonus is not a guarantee, so it's not a good idea to hedge your bets upon one. If, for some reason, you do not receive the bonus, then you're kinda fucked, just like the boss would be if they weren't a criminal in a cartoon world. Additionally, most employers don't pay you at the end of each day, and I absolutely doubt a company as big as Marshall would give out bonuses at the end of each day based on performance, especially if performance is simply following orders. Because the boss didn't get their bonus, it's a concern about paying rent. The solution, naturally, is to rob a payday advance office because
No one gives a shit if people rob those bastards.
You have a job now. You could actually just take the loan.
Eli, I don't do business with morally bankrupt companies.
Man, my favorite part of San Andreas was the mission where CJ does research to see what restaurants ethically source their ingredients. My favorite mission in Saints Row 2 is the one where you take Johnny Gat to protest the store that sells shirts made by Indian orphans being paid 3 cents per day, working 16-hour shifts with no breaks and no days off. It's a bit fucking bizarre that such a line of dialogue would exist in a game in which the boss not only already lives with 2 criminal gang members, not only commits crimes himself, but also in a game that is about building up a criminal empire. This gang that's doing a whole bunch of illegal shit, including mass murder of opposing gangs and selling drugs. While this game is certainly lacking in many aspects, including any kind of interesting storytelling or characters, the one thing it's not lacking is obnoxious ham-fisted politics being shoved in your face frequently, because when I play an action game where 95% of the gameplay is shooting people and causing havoc, I really want to hear about student fucking loans and not doing business with companies that lack morals. They try to play this off as a joke, that the boss works for Marshall, and that they're a morally bankrupt company, but lampshading a problem doesn't make it not a problem. But worse than that, this comment from the boss just comes across less as a joke, and more like pandering to the exact kind of people that a better version of this game would have been mocking through the idols. Also, as far as jokes go, it's about as funny as a goddamn orphanage fire. Neenah says they're not using her car, not because it's easily identifiable, or because it has a license plate like any other car, but because she's not risking it on such a low-level crime. They decide instead to steal some cars from around the corner. Then this exchange happens.
Ooh! Can we take a hybrid?
Eli, I love that you're worried about fuel efficiency, but I'm thinking acceleration will matter more.
Your carbon footprint always matters.
I'm honestly not sure which is more frustrating. The fact that this game is unironically pushing politics that would have been mocked in the first 3 games.
You know, a woman getting ahead in the medical field is an uphill battle. I don't care what anyone says.
I may be a badass, but I don't think I can change the way an entire profession thinks about gender.
If I get in the Brilliant Book of World Records for most patients served, I think that would send a message that women are just as proficient, if not more so, than their male counterparts.
All right.
Where are you going?
You said you were planning on treating more patients, so I figured you wanted me to hurt some people.
Oh god, no. Surgery takes a lot of time. I need you to fake multiple injuries so I can treat you faster than I normally could.
Doesn't cheating to get a world record kind of undercut your point?
I'll live.
Just checking.
Or the fact that they're doing it with the subtlety of a fucking jumbo jet crashing into a fine china shop. Either way, we're only about 40 minutes into the game, and it's already stayed 3 hours past its welcome. This is the kind of shit you have to deal with throughout the entire main story of this game, and it gets no less insufferable. Now you'd think using stolen cars is so it would be hard for the police to find out who they are, and it's even heavily implied that this is the case, as you have a swap car waiting for you after you dump this one. However, all that careful planning to protect your identities is kinda all for fucking naught, as the entire gang makes no attempt to hide their faces in the slightest. I sure am glad none of them have any easily recognizable features or marks that would make it absurdly fucking easy to identify who committed this crime. This is fucking absurdity. This entire game is stupid, and shit like this is why. Additionally, the game goes out of its way to establish that Eli is useless with a gun.
You got one of those for me?
You really want one after last time?
I am not the first person to accidentally shoot a friend by dropping a loaded... Yeah, okay, I don't need a gun.
Yeah, this is a gang that can really get shit done. It's briefly implied that the guy running this business has some thugs working for him, and that this robbery could bite you in the ass, but Kevin knocks him out in one punch and there's never any follow-up to this. After stealing the cash from the safe, you then have to escape the cops, while Team Brainiac returns to the apartment. During this part, you're taught how to side-slam into cars beside you. No, it's not using the controls normally to push them to one side or the other. It's a sudden jolt to the left or right to knock cars off course. Well, I see normal physics isn't part of the itinerary today. I guess they wanted solo combat in vehicles to be more interesting, so they invented this mechanic. But it's just kind of dumb, especially when you could screw over those chasing you fairly easily without it, and especially considering the vehicles are made of paper mache. It also doesn't make sense from a world perspective. It doesn't seem like the boss is jerking the wheel one way or the other. It seems as though the car has something installed in it to make it suddenly jolt to one side or the other, and because this ability is almost always available to you, that therefore implies that every vehicle has whatever mechanics installed to allow this to happen, yet no one ever seems to use it against you. While I'm at it, I want to talk about the power slides quickly, as they're just as absurd and broken. Power slides in Saints Row 2 largely depended on vehicle speed and weight, with lighter cars able to do it far more effectively than a very large truck, for example. It was somewhat realistic in its depiction, with a fairly realistic degree of momentum as you brake to take a corner. In Saints Row, the power slide is stupid and cartoonish, like the rest of the game. Now, I had the suspicion that the power slide would go on infinitely, but I didn't really have a way to prove it, as there was always obstacles in the way. But while getting extra footage for this part of the video, this suspicion was proven true. You can power slide infinitely, as long as you hit no objects that will stop you, and as long as you never gain air, which will kill your momentum. I got into a power slide in a flat area, rigged my keyboard to hold the necessary buttons down, and walked away. This continued until I stopped it. Over 7,000 seconds, which is over 116 minutes, which is nearly 2 hours. Now, I can't find a large enough flat area to test this with every vehicle. The fact that one vehicle does this would heavily imply the rest would as well, given the appropriate amount of space. It's like the vehicle is being propelled sideways when it makes no logical sense for it to act in this way. Worse yet, it doesn't seem to matter which vehicle you use either, as even buses and big trucks will do this, as the natural laws of physics just warp around the stupidity aura of the boss. Once you lose the cops, you go dump the stolen car and swap it for a clean one, only to find the Panteros have stripped it. After killing them, you hop on a bike and the cops catch up with you. You flee into the desert to try and lose the cops, but you fuck up and get trapped on a bridge. It's all over. The boss goes to jail for the next 247 years. I wish. Instead, this absurdly fucking stupid bullshit happens.
Freeze!
Down on the ground!
Called for a ride?
This is one of those things that's so obviously fucking stupid that I hope I wouldn't need to explain the problem here. But I will anyways. This is just a total abortion of physics in every way possible. First of all, she drives straight off that ramp, which means more or less the car would land on the ground on its wheels. You can get a car to go vertical like that sorta, if 2 wheels are on the ramp and 2 aren't, but that also fucks up the kind of air you can get. Neenah's magic fucking car defies physics and turns mid-air to land with all 4 wheels on the billboard. This is just stupid and impossible. The wheels just fucking magnetize to the billboard. Worse yet, she comes to a stop, as though she's on the ground. What would actually happen is that the car would either go through the billboard, or it would bounce off and crash into the ground. Immediately. Gravity is a force that tends to act pretty fucking quickly, and doesn't have the habit of waiting around or forgetting to do its job. The force of this car isn't enough to break or even damage the plywood or sheet metal, but it instead snaps the bolts holding the support beam, causing it to fall where the cops are, at the end of the bridge, and quite conveniently, Neenah's car remains fucking superglued to the surface of the billboard as it's falling. Again, this would not happen. The game treats us like a cool moment, but it's about as cool as a fucking gonorrhea diagnosis. Let's hope none of the cops take note of her super unique car, or what Neenah looks like, because that would be real bad down the line. But of course, there are no real consequences in this game. Next up, another job for Marshall. As usual, the boss won't be reasonable at all, and eventually begrudgingly accepts their orders. You're riding shotgun with a guy named JR, and you're supposed to follow Panteros' convoy without interfering. This gets fucked immediately, as the leader of the Panteros was spying on your meeting with Gwen, and they're prepared for you, sending out men to kill you. Aside from the boss defying physics as they jump from car to car, and the boss trying to not get in trouble with Gwen, it's mostly a standard high-action quest where you kill waves of goons coming at you in various ways. When Marshall's drone is destroyed, Gwen gives you the okay to go for the convoy yourself. Why did Sergio randomly look up to see the drone. There's no way he would have heard it over the sounds of the convoy, the shooting, or even his own truck. The boss stops the convoy and ends up earning a promotion. Apparently the Panteros had a lot of priceless ancient artifacts, and somehow none of them got damaged when this happened. Next mission is to help JR get some car parts back that were stolen from him. After the convoy job, he doesn't want to work for Marshall anymore, and instead decides to open his own business, resulting in the idols immediately fucking with him, despite being a little guy. As mentioned, they have a very you're either with us or against us mentality, in which they don't actually care about bringing down corrupt megacorporations, but bringing down all businesses, as they're all a part of the machine.
Thing is, they belong to one of the little guys you say you fight for, so...
There are no little guys. Just idols and tools of the system.
I also don't know why JR needs his merchandise in order to build his business. Typically you get the building, then you put the merchandise inside of it. Kevin tells the boss that the idols are partying nearby. You go there to talk to some of their people under the guise of wanting to join them, in order to learn what they did with the car parts. You go there, steal them back, drag the shipping container back to JR's. Naturally, it doesn't end there. The idols show up, presumably because you stole the goods they stole, so you kill them, and that's the mission. This unlocks car customization, as the only location of Oh. Wait, I'm sorry, I mean... Jim Robs. This derp fucking logo isn't endearing. But more than that, why discard the amusing joke of rim jobs for the car customization location? Was the idea of a place named after eating ass just too offensive for this game series full of offensive humor, where you're constantly murdering people? This ain't the only victim either. Freckle Bitches is now simply called FBs, and is only ever referred to as such as far as I've seen. Why the fuck are these jokes a bridge too far, and needed to be fucking eradicated like any standards this company had for previous games? Yeah, sure, it's a game where you literally murder hundreds upon hundreds of people, and your gang sells drugs, but the name of a car modification shop being a joke about eating ass because cars have rims is just too far. Same goes for Freckle Bitches. What, is the issue that a fictional female mascot in a fictional world called a bitch? That's double fucking fictional! She is fictional within the already fictional world of Saints Row. The next mission is one for Marshall, in which you're head of security at a museum that is displaying the recovered artifacts and something called the Hummingbird Codex. Rather than playing it coy, I'm just gonna cut to the fucking chase. The Hummingbird Codex is a MacGuffin and nothing more. Marshall, the Panteros, and the idols all want this thing. It's supposedly extremely valuable, and it's never explained why so much attention is put on it, or why everyone cares about it. The Panteros show up to steal it back, and as you shoot your way to the Codex to defend it, the idols arrive as well. The Codex is housed in a secure hover tube thing that will move towards the exit as long as you're close, and you have to fight off enemy gang members the whole time. It starts malfunctioning, and you're eventually locked into a room with it, only for physics to turn off again to blow you out a window back to the main floor. You fight your way back, defend Myra Star, and catch up with Atticus, who is pissed that you lost the Codex, despite facing impossible odds entirely alone. You kill dozens of people in defending the stupid book, and none of that matters, because the game turned off your ability to be an unstoppable killing machine for 5 seconds to separate you from the booktube. Atticus fires you from Marshall due to this failure, and the boss just kinda slumps down, depressed. This leads into one of the... well, I was gonna say one of the most obnoxious scenes in this game, but in all honesty, there's so much garbage in this game that there's actually a fucking competition for the worst scene. But either way, this is still pretty fucking stupid. The boss is laying in bed, depressed. You get a prompt to press the A button to wake up, and the boss rolls over. You get the prompt again, and they roll over again. You get the prompt a third fucking time, and the boss just rolls out of bed onto the floor. Kevin had offered the boss some food before this obnoxious bullshit, but now the boss overdramatically walks to the kitchen slowly, all sad and depressed and moping, and the food Kevin made and said was there for you just isn't there now. The boss opens the fridge to find nothing, opens the freezer to find one singular waffle just laying there, and grabs it to put it in the toaster. Toast your lonely waffle. The boss then overdramatically fiddles with the toaster as it's not working and getting even more sad, and finally gets the waffle to stay in, only for it to fly out and onto the floor. The boss sits down and then goes on a shopping spree for a bunch of knives on one of those shows where you can buy stuff live. So this isn't how depression works in the fucking slightest. This is some of the dumbest shit I've ever fucking seen. Yes, there are days you don't want to get out of bed, but you don't roll back and forth and onto the fucking floor like that. Depression is like a weight on your fucking soul, dragging you down, making you miserable and sapping motivation out of you for the things you want or even need to do. What happens in the game comes across more as the boss trying to squeeze sympathy out of the roommates by acting overly sad, and the second the boss realizes Eli and Kevin are in trouble, they're instantly over it for the rest of the game. Also, buying random knives on TV because they just so happen to be there? Really? Fucking really? I've heard of people trying to fill a hole in their lives by spending money, but usually it's something they personally find interest in, or something they like. Neenah gets a text from Sergio that the Panteros are attacking the party the idols are having. Keeping with the trend of making these characters completely insufferable, they don't realize immediately that their friends could potentially be killed here, but instead laugh it off initially, until they have that oh fuck moment of realization that should have fucking happened the moment the text came in. Eli ends up getting shot during this raid. Too bad it wasn't in the fucking head. The boss and Neenah rush to the party, with Neenah quitting the Panteros even though I don't think leaving a violent street gang is so simple. And they fight through the Panteros to get to Eli and Kevin. More idols show up, including one of their leaders. Yeah, I haven't really talked about them yet. Rather than just having one leader, the idols have what they call the Collective. Nameless people wearing these dumb fucking helmets, each one with a unique display.
Those Panteros should have left the party crashing to the experts. But it looks like we missed one.
Looks like you're gonna back the fuck off.
No. They're cool. They're with me.
If they're with you, then you get to kill them.
I genuinely don't fucking understand why the Idol Collective member is telling Kevin to kill his friends. It's not played off as though it's a misunderstanding that the Collective dude thinks the boss and Neenah attacked the party. He just kinda does this dumb shit for no reason. I guess he read the script and found out Kevin needed a good reason to leave the idols so he could help start the Saints. It's just total nonsense. Also, how pathetic are the idols that one of their leaders gets killed this early into the game? This is so early in the story that the Saints haven't even been started yet. It would be one thing if killing this Collective member had some kind of significant impact upon the idols, and they want revenge or something, but he's treated no differently than any of the other 8,423 nameless goons you kill in this game, aside from the fact he has a slightly bigger health bar, which barely even compares to the armored mini-bosses you've killed numerous of already. There's no real fanfare or acknowledgement that this has happened. Let's compare quickly to killing the leader of an enemy gang from the original.
That was a hell of a tip.
No kidding. With the amount of shit we confiscated, we could have put Lopez away for the rest of his life.
It don't matter. He got taken care of anyway.
What do you mean?
Monroe's just happy Lopez is dead. As far as he's concerned, this case is closed. Hell, if he found the guy who did this, he'd probably send him a fruit basket.
Hello. Hey, Victor. Mira, I'm in the middle of something. What? What? Victor, listen to me very carefully. I don't give a fuck about the drugs. I don't give a fuck about Orjuela.
What about Manuel?
Mira, mujer, cállate el hocico. Who did this to my brother?
What about Hector?
Luz, por favor. Okay, you're right. You deal with the Saints, I'll handle the Colombians. If Manuel is behind this, yo le voy a señalar a él porque la familia López somos los más fuertes.
Sure, the Los Carnales.
It's not the Los Carnales, it's just the Carnales. Los means... fuck it.
They're not super deep or complex. They're very straightforward villains. Hector is a smart, calm, cool, collected one, for the most part. When things start going wrong and they look bad in front of the Colombians, he does get frustrated. Angelo is frequently shown to be extremely temperamental, so it sets up a weakness to exploit, to pit the Carnales against the Colombians, especially since there already seems to be some friction there. So you're sent to assassinate Hector while he's doing a deal with the Colombians, resulting in Angelo taking over and getting sloppy, attacking the Row as he's losing his grasp of power over the city, as you continually take territory from his gang. Again, not super deep, not super complex, but there's something there, and it's handled logically in terms of writing quality. But most of all, at least it's fucking there. Do the idols even know or care that you murdered one of their leaders? No. In fact, when they attack the church later, it seems less like any kind of revenge, and more just the idols being the idols. That is to say, obnoxious dipshits fucking with people because they can. Even the original Saints Row has lines of gang members acknowledging shit that happens, such as Angelo abandoning them during their attack on the Row. Sure, the writing of the originals isn't quite as good as Saints Row 2, but it was still intelligently written. Shit like this is the difference between something well written and something lazily written, and this by far is not the last comparison between this game and the others in the series. Eli says to take a truck, better acceleration, to which Kevin says, what about fuel efficiency? Eli responds saying, fuck the fuel efficiency. It's a joke payoff that was set up earlier at the start of the Payday Loan Robbery mission. In a better setting, this joke might have been a bit amusing, maybe enough to crack a slight smile, but by this point already we've dealt with a lot of ham-fisted political messaging and sanitization of long-running jokes from the series, so to some, it might initially come across as just more pushing politics. However, credit where it's due, it does seem as though this is simply a joke. As the crew escapes, the Panteros show up in force again, intending to take them all down. The boss gets on a roof and shoots at them with a rocket launcher. One thing to note immediately is that the truck seems to be super durable, to the point that the truck's health bar is only shown when it's damaged, like any other vehicle being damaged, rather than being a constant reminder. In other Saints Row games, when you're riding shotgun and you're shooting at enemies, there's typically the danger of your own car being destroyed. This is typically the main fail state to be concerned about. Effectively taking out your enemies prevents them from doing damage to your vehicle, resulting in the NPC driver either getting where they need to for the cutscene to play, or to give you the chance to complete some kind of objective. Keep in mind, you can damage your own vehicle in these quests if you're careless. That doesn't seem to be the case in Saints Row 2022, where you're free to fire rockets at the cars scraping up against yours and blowing them the fuck apart, only to do no noticeable damage to your own. If anything, it seems as though it's more difficult to achieve the failsafe of the truck being destroyed than it is to complete the quest. You also have to listen to the stupid be your own boss motivational speech thing again. I didn't mention this earlier, but during the Payday Loan Robbery, it's established that Eli doesn't listen to music in the car. He listens to these dumb motivational speeches, and you're forced to listen to this shit at least 3 times throughout the game.
Be your own boss. That's right. Be your own boss.
One of these days, I'm going to get you to listen to music in the car.
Roger McGillicuddy speaks the music of my soul.
This is the second of those times. In fact, the game will frequently play music you can't turn off while missions are going on, such as during the Swearfest earlier, and during the bike chase section of the Robbery quest from earlier. The previous games saved something like this for special cases, rather than doing it nearly every fucking time you're in a mission. It's obnoxious if you don't want to listen to this music, or worse, if it happens to be a short loop of music. This can be alleviated if you choose to disable copyright music for recording videos or streaming, which will then remove this mandatory music and replace it with welcome silence. You eventually get away from the Panteros and return to the apartment. Typically, this kind of scene happens in movies and games because a group has been doing something super illegal, but this time, the crew are arguably innocent. Sure, the boss killed like 50 people, but they wouldn't need to tell that story to explain how Eli got shot. He was a bystander at a party and got shot randomly as it was attacked by a gang, hostile to those hosting the party, entirely outside of his control. Eli asks why he hasn't been taken to the hospital, only to get a response of, "You don't have health insurance." Get it? Because medical care in America is expensive? I'm getting so fucking tired of this shit. They commit acts of home surgery on Eli, and I guess that's just good enough. I guess it's just super lucky that the bullet didn't hit anything too vital. It was only a flesh wound. I guess it's super lucky the bullet isn't seeping lead into his system and slowly poisoning him, or that in the process of tending the wound, the 3 fuck-ups don't tear open the injury or make things way worse. Oh well, our despicable cast of snowflakes manages to patch Eli up, much to our misfortune. Finally, a character within the game has a rational thought. Though unfortunately for everyone else, they've now hit their limit for rational thoughts in this game, and it's all downhill from here. Eli realizes how bad of a position they're in, as they've just made enemies out of both the Panteros and the Idols. Yeah, maybe skip town to somewhere else that's less shit than this place, though I do recommend abandoning the mutant cat you guys zone. Dear God, who the fuck gave a pass to this thing to appear in the final version of the game? The boss soundly declares that they're going to create their own criminal empire. Now there's nothing wrong with a game about gangs to start before the title gang is even formed. It could have been a good idea, and worked out well, but in the approximately 2 hours of gameplay we've had so far, I don't trust any of these fuckers to make a bowl of cereal, let alone be in a gang, let alone be the leaders and running the fucking gang. Up to this point, they've been characterized as nothing but pathetic and stupid losers who only succeed because the script says they do. Because reality constantly snaps itself in fucking half to accommodate them. The only character of any real worth is the boss, whose entire personality is that they're good at killing people and won't shut the fuck up with their obnoxious bullshit. The boss goes on about all their apparent good traits and points out that they took on 2 gangs at once, and walked away just fine, to which Eli says that he got shot. Eli got shot before they decided to take on 2 gangs. He got shot as a bystander, not as an active participant. Neenah and Kevin decide to go with the boss. Eli is hesitant and needs to be pressured by the boss to say yes. Next mission is about starting your criminal empire. It's treated like a joke that they seem to be missing something from their plans, primarily committing profitable crimes and having gang members. Just more evidence of how inept these people are, that they feel the need to write this basic shit down. Again, this comes across as a bunch of dipshits playing pretend. And now that I think of it, this scene was probably just a recreation of the writer's room when they were working on this game. The clown crew decides they need a base of operations, as it's a bit embarrassing to use their apartment as their gang headquarters.
You saying we're not legit already?
Oh, I love you, but I'm allergic.
Yeah, point taken.
Look, I know I keep repeating it, but that's only because it's a constant issue with this game. These people aren't threatening or intimidating at all. I don't get the impression these people would shoot you. I get the impression they'd angrily make a 20-tweet long thread about how mad you made them as they rally their followers to mass report you to get you banned from the platform. It's utterly pathetic.
You saying we're not legit already?
Oh, I love you, but I'm allergic.
Yeah, point taken.
Hey, not to be pushy or nothing, but how about you get me out of this fucking chair? About fucking time you got here. Where's Green? That's much better. Now, I heard Green say that he's got some heavy shit in the back. I'll have some of our boys roll on over and bring the hardware back to the crib.
Neenah suggests the old abandoned church over on 3rd Street.
There's an old church near Fort Cullen. The sanctuary is huge. I can turn the rectory into a garage. It's condemned, so it's cheap. And it's got a fucking graveyard, so we can stash the bodies.
I swear to fucking God, every time one of these insufferable soggy cabbages open their goddamn mouths, it's immediately like having your teeth drilled. That's not how graveyards work, you absolute potato. The cops would notice fresh graves being dug. The church isn't operating as a church anymore. Who the fuck is getting buried there? Pretty fucking suspicious. Probably enough for a warrant to look into this shit. Not to mention, burying the bodies on your own property is downright fucking stupid in the first place. The evidence will always be directly connected to your HQ by virtue of still fucking being there. This is the kind of thing that would bite you in the ass a month from now, or 40 years from now. People could get away with murder if the cops can't connect them to the crime scene or the crime itself. Keeping the bodies of the people you kill as a gang on your property is such smoking gun evidence that the only thing worse than that would be to have a picture of you standing over the corpse with a literal smoking gun in your hand. Yes, this is a game series where you do all kinds of wacky shit without getting in the trouble of the law, where you would in real life, but the suspension of disbelief has its limits, and this game seems to have a fucking axe to grind with them. The first half of this mission is your standard affair for these kinds of games. Destroying a bunch of shit to get civilians, in this case construction workers, to fuck off. Dealing with any hostile forces, in this case Marshall providing security to the construction crew, and fucking with a real estate agent into handing over the deed to the property. The second half is fucking stupid beyond belief.
Hashtag take me to church, hashtag digs in this, hashtag and post it.
Having gained control of the church, Kevin's first act is to post on social media about their new gang hideout, prompting the idols into attacking. See what I mean? These people are too stupid to live, let alone run a gang. How the hell is anyone supposed to like or care about these characters when they're this obnoxiously fucking stupid? If the Panteros and idols learn the people who betrayed them and the person who's been murdering the shit out of their members are starting a gang, and this gang only has 4 members, they would probably want to wipe them out immediately. Especially since a new gang rising in a town this small by default means they're going to be moving in on your territory and will be a threat to you. Especially if they manage to really get established.
Hang on, I'm getting a call. Oh shit, you better hear this.
Hi, Kevy. We saw your post. Congrats on the new digs. We adore your takedown of that gentrifying dick.
Who is that?
The collective.
The idols want to throw you a housewarming party.
Fuck. Their parties get violent.
No thanks.
I wasn't asking. Duh. See you soon, Kevin.
Originally, I had written into the script for this video that the idols are obviously using party as a euphemism for attacking and trying to kill them. But I realized that might actually be giving this game too much benefit of the doubt, considering Kevin's response isn't one of fear of an attack or retribution for his betrayal in killing one of the collective, it's, oh no, their parties can get violent. It's a pretty bog standard raid with no real issues on its own, aside from all the obvious factors, the characters and gang involved, the stupidity of the whole situation, the mediocre gunplay. After wiping out the idols attacking the church, Neenah lifts a board off the floor to find a fleur-de-lis, and they state they found their logo. The boss looks at the painting of an angel, all inspired, and decides that they will be the saints. Okay, so while angels can be saints, I very much doubt the average person knows this. I don't believe for a second any of these worthless chucklefucks would know this. It comes across as a bit bizarre that you'd look at a painting of an angel and decide to call yourself the saints, rather than the angels. But either way, this is a shitty origin of the new shitty 3rd Street Saints. Rather than the boss being inspired by the painting of an angel, it could have just been the obvious connection. Our base is a church, and we are the saints. Not to mention, how is the church on 3rd Street? Why is it called 3rd Street? I know this sounds incredibly pedantic, but nobody does street numbers at random. There is always a logical reason each street is named the way it is, especially with numbers. Hell, it's how you can find places in major cities like New York so easily, because the number system is laid out in a logical way, so you can find wherever you gotta go. Yet here we have a church just out on its own with no logical reason this would be called 3rd Street instead of any other name. It's worth mentioning right now that we are 9 missions into this game, and the main story only has about 21 mandatory missions. It's hard to find the exact number with numerous sites reporting different lists of mandatory missions, but either way, this means we're almost halfway through this game's main story, and the Saints are only just now getting started. It also just goes to show how fucking shallow the other gangs in this game are. Again, the gangs in Saints Row 1 weren't super deep or complex, but there was still enough there for each of them where they all took up a significant part of the game. In Saints Row 1 and 2, each enemy gang took up about a quarter of the story, with the remaining quarter being used for the first few starting missions, as well as the ending missions. In Saints Row, we're almost halfway through the main story, and we haven't once done a mission with the sole intent of fucking with any of the enemy gangs to weaken them. You've only dealt with them incidentally, as they happen to be involved with Marshall, or they were involved of their own volition, such as the Pantero stripping your getaway car, or the Idol stealing JR's stuff. What's worse is that the rest of the main story feels like aimless meandering bullshit with no point to it. This leaves very little time for any kind of storyline involving taking enemy gangs down. Well, just keep that in mind for now, as I'm totally sure the rest of the main story will be nothing but dealing with them, and won't be a big dumb stupid waste of time. At this point the missions start branching out a bit, with the main story missions tackling different objectives in order to build the Saints into a real gang, allegedly, as well as semi-optional side missions for the clown crew. These missions aren't required to complete the main story, but they are required for the post-game. I'll just go in order of the ones I've completed. The next mission is as fucking inane and pointless as it gets. Though granted, it is an optional side mission for one of the boss's friends. Kevin decides the church needs some decoration. He has you drive to a nearby historical site, take a picture of a cannon, and materialize a copy of it out of thin fucking air back at the base. The explanation is literally that it just works.
There's a bunch of cool collectibles around town that would look amazing in the church. All we have to do is find a thing we want, snap a picture, and boom. It'll just show up there.
Really? How does that work?
It works.
Yes, but how?
It just works.
That's it. That's the quest. I know this might sound pedantic, but this is only an issue because it's something they brought up. I wouldn't have thought twice about it had they not tried to explain it. They do end up discussing a 3D printer, as the boss mentions it, but that's never confirmed that this is where the items come from, especially since they seem to be exact duplicates aside from a slight texture change. They also go over their way to tell you how much of a massive slut Kevin is, because he's bisexual, to the point that people get all his past partners confused for one another, because he's just had so many.
Remember Teddy?
Your ex? The bloke with the ponytail?
Other ex Teddy. The woman with the mohawk?
Look, being bisexual doesn't mean you fuck every living thing that moves, but the people behind this dumpster fire of a game couldn't keep their politics out of it, so why should I expect those degenerates to keep their sex lives out of it too? Or maybe they're just using the worst stereotype of bisexual people, because they're about as creative as a fucking brain tumor. I'm not saying it just because of this bit of dialogue, it's referenced a number of times throughout the game, always with different people from past relationships. Oh, and in case anyone decides defending this by referencing a certain other character, I'll get to that much later. Next we have to build business connections for the Saints.
I hereby invite you to the inaugural meeting of the Saints Board of Directors.
Oh, that's rather corporate structure, isn't it?
There'll be donuts.
Be right there.
I mean, first off, the boss is right. Why is a criminal gang being treated as though it's a corporation? Second, really? Donuts. Do the writers think this is quirky or funny? Or are they intentionally making this experience as painful as possible?
Oh, come on, man. We want this thing to be more than a street gang. We want to be an organization, an institution. And that means we need to have our fingers in more pies.
I don't know how you could take a game all about making your own gang and make it sound as fucking inane and boring as they are right now. You could have done anything, and instead you went for the stupid, overly professional corporate structure bullshit that only continues to make your characters look more pathetic than they already do. What happened to simply working towards taking out your enemies in an intelligent way? Fingers and more pies? What do you mean, more pies? They've got no pies right now. They're entirely pieless. They're just a bunch of assholes in an abandoned church calling themselves a gang. The boss goes off to recruit JR, who agrees to join if he will get the Panteros off his back. The boss leaves without even asking what they're doing, resulting in the boss calling him on the way to the first group of Panteros that you're gonna fuck with. Essentially, they're trying to put him out of business, but why? Do the Panteros operate a legitimate car modification business and see him as competition? Or are they just doing bad guy stuff because they're bad guys? We just don't know, until we do find out, and it's so much worse. This mission has you harassing numerous Panteros hangout spots, including taking a monster truck and crushing their cars and car parts, because that apparently really makes them mad.
Feel free to blow up their cars too. Panteros get real bugged by that.
I'm sure going out of your way to piss them off as much as possible totally won't have any negative consequences whatsoever. During each encounter, the boss will yell for them to stop messing with JR. In case I haven't mentioned it yet, all these characters are irredeemably fucking stupid.
Tell Sergio Jim Rob's garage is under the Saints' protection.
Oh yes, I'm sure this massive gang is fucking terrified of a gang of only 4 people, only one of which is competent at killing anyone, and one of which doesn't shoot at all because he's pathetic. A dangerous, violent gang is trying to run a lone man out of business. How might they react to someone being sent to kill them and damage their highly valued property? Would they just let that go, or would they retaliate? Apparently no one considers this, as JR is surprised when they show up and forced to kill him.
Only thing left to hit is Derek's HQ. It's down in the corner. Oh, hell's bells. You gotta get back here. Derek and his crew just rolled up on me.
This is what you get for fighting back, old man.
The boss saves him, and that's pretty much it. It also begs the question, if they wanted to end his business, why not just kill him? They're a violent gang who have no issue with killing. I do have to talk about this monster truck a bit, though. It will flatten cars when it drives over them. That is understandable. Cars will also flatten when they drive into it, even if it's fucking parked. The devs just didn't even code this thing, so it would only crush cars while it was active and moving. I see the developers put just as much time, energy, effort, and care into this aspect as they did the rest of the game, which is to say, barely fucking anything. Upon return to the church, it's explained that you now own a whole bunch of empty lots across town, because the deeds to them were in the briefcase you stole from the real estate agent. I'm not sure that's how that works, but okay. This just opens up side hustles, in which you pick an empty lot and put some kind of illegal business there, such as food trucks that run drugs, insurance fraud, and dumping toxic nuclear waste in the middle of the city. It's like this game is constantly pushing the bounds of stupidity. This is just obnoxiously stupid. If anyone is dumping high volumes of toxic waste illegally, they're not going to do it in the middle of the fucking city like this. This is even more ridiculous when you see that this turns the lot into a glowing fucking crater of bright green waste, as if no one will fucking notice. Yeah, it's silly haha wacky game, but even that has its limits.
Nice. You did say we need to have our fingers in more pies.
I've got that covered. I spent the whole day baking my ass off. Okay, fine. They're empanadas.
That's not a pie.
It's in the pie family.
Now I'm really hungry.
Plan first, eat later.
That's it. I fucking had enough of this shit. Because these characters acting like pathetic, unfunny morons is a constant issue in this game. From now on, instead of calling it out directly each and every time it happens, I'm just gonna play a clip from the original games for contrast.
Yo, can we get back to business?
What's the rush?
I've been cooped up on death row and that bitch has been laid out in a coma.
We definitely need to remind motherfuckers who we are.
And that can't wait until after dinner?
No.
You two haven't changed at all.
Well, you know, there's a saying about dogs and blowing shit up. So what's the plan?
We get our crew together. Once we got that, we can work on how we're taking back our city.
Sounds good.
And where were you planning on having this little meeting? No.
Well, this place is pretty spacious.
No.
The color's very soothing.
No.
Come on, Ish.
This ain't no fucking gang clubhouse.
Change of plans.
We gotta find a new place.
Yeah, you got it.
Next up, the gang needs more members to be a gang.
So, how do we staff up?
Easy. I've got a 14-step plan.
13 steps too long, mate.
Yeah. Why not just go to Boot Hill and show everyone what a badass you are?
What's Boot Hill?
Are you kidding me? Check out the laptop.
They were ready and waiting with this laptop playing this shit. Are you really telling me neither Eli nor Neenah asked about it beforehand?
Okay. Boot Hill is this live stream fight club kind of thing they do on the abandoned island out in the lake. This sick cat named Doc Ketchum runs the show.
Fight Club? More like murder circus.
We need to recruit more saints, right? Everyone in town with a criminal record watches this live stream.
Oh, he's right. I've seen Pantero streaming it. I just didn't know what it was called.
But it's crazy dangerous.
It's viral marketing.
Viral marketing is not supposed to come with a mortality rate.
It's like breaking out in the art world. You gotta do something to capture people's attention. This does.
Plus it nails our target demographic.
I don't know. You're the one who have to do this. What do you think?
I suppose this is a result of the stupid wacky stuff added in Saints Row 3, and it only got worse after that. Despite what many people say, the wacky, zany bullshit wasn't part of the series originally. It's something that was largely introduced in the third game, and now it's just an excuse for stupidity like this. An island where you're just supposed to kill your way to the top, and that's all it is. I don't care how silly the series has gotten, there's no reason for a place like this to exist within it.
Everyone in town with a criminal record watches this live stream.
This line is meant to be taken literally, by the way. They do this again later with... well, we'll get to that abomination when it comes. The idea is that if you put on a good enough show on Boot Hill, criminals will join the gang.
We cannot afford delusion.
Also, you're our friend. We miss you.
Urge to kill rising.
I think you're being too hard on yourself.
Yeah, that car crushing thing was pretty tight.
Don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of my work, it's just... I got so wrapped up in sending Mayor a message I never asked Jessica about the shipment.
Bitch is dead. Who cares about the shipment?
I do. It's something that Mayor wants, and that means I'm gonna take it. Alright, there's gotta be someone you can pump for information. What about Donnie? He got manhandled twice. I'm pretty sure he's out of the loop, if not dead.
Hey, what about their
What about their tattoo artist? Good idea.
What just happened?
Shaundi had a good idea.
Man, what the fuck ever? She stole my...
Don't be jealous, Pierce. We're all on the same team.
Upon arriving at the island, a cutscene plays. I suppose it's the hype up. Whoa, what the fuck was that? Okay, surely it was just a glitch or something. I mean, there's no way that made it into the final game as something the developers intentionally put there. Maybe that cutscene was just made before they had created a proper sword animation for the game. I mean, shit like that happens sometimes, right? I'm sure it's not a big... Oh, fuck, are you... Fuck! You can't be for fucking real. Apparently the people who made this game need to be taught how a sword fucking works. See, a sword is a long, fairly thin piece of metal, and the blade tapers to a very thin edge that's typically sharpened, so it can be effective at the simple job of slicing motherfuckers apart. You do not grab a goddamn sword by the blade. Like, yeah, you can actually touch the blade, and even grip it for things like murder strokes, where you grip the blade and use a crossguard to puncture into the skull or dent the helmet of an opponent. The key being that your hand is not moving up and down the blade, which is how the edge actually cuts. But this is someone holding and swinging a sword like it's a goddamn axe. You are gripping the blade and sliding your hand up and down as you're swinging it at people you are trying to kill. They couldn't even make a mission about simply killing people in a chaotic setting without fucking it up. Anyways, there isn't much to Boot Hill, really. It's just a lot of killing with this game's awful weapons, including a dumb charge laser that will instantly kill someone, but is annoying to use considering a normal-ass gun works just fine. Overall, it comes across as more pointless filler in a game that is almost exclusively filler. And by the way, what? No, don't do this shit to me again. Are you fucking kidding me? A melee weapon has ammo? Fucking why? Why does a sledgehammer have fucking ammo? It's not a durability thing either. You expend ammo for a weapon that does not have any kind of ammunition, even when you don't hit anything. What in the sweet motherest of fucks is this shit? So what happens when you run out of ammo for your hammer? Your dumbass just tosses it away, even though it's still perfectly intact and still a very useful weapon. God, it just doesn't fucking end with this game. Anyways, it's not even really explained how any of the criminals watching this show will know it's the Saints. Eli's phone starts getting tons of calls and texts from people wanting to join, but how would they know who the boss is, what the Saints are, or what Eli's number is? This also feels entirely unnecessary. In the first and second Saints Row games, the gang started off extremely small as well, to the point they have no real territory initially, but as you start taking territory across the city, the gang just naturally gets bigger. It could easily be assumed that the reputation the Saints get as they grow and aim to take down the other gangs is what draws more people to join them. Next up is Neenah's car. I think the developers realize that they've wasted a significant chunk of this game's main story content at this point, and realize that they're going to have to give some character to the brain-dead roommates at some point. It goes pretty much as you'd expect by this point. Neenah's super special car has been stolen by the Panteros. During this quest, it's explained that if you kill a Pantero, they're dead, but if you fuck up their car, they're nothing.
Shoot someone in the face, they're dead. You fuck up their car, they're nothing.
I see the writers come from the glue-huffing Academy of Writing. They've characterized this gang so cartoonishly poorly and stupid that somehow messing up their car is worse than death. This is one of those problems that's so fucking obvious, it shouldn't need explaining, but I will anyways. If someone kills you, you are fucking dead. Forever. If someone messes up your car, you fix it or get a new one. Case in point, during this mission you interrogate a Panteros member by fucking up his car, painting it, changing the details on it, and so forth. He breaks almost immediately. Keep in mind that his car is literally in an auto shop he seems to run, or is otherwise owned by the Panteros anyways. If spray painting his car a different color is such an issue, just paint it again. Sure, realistically it might take some time, but certainly not a fate worse than death. The Saints and the Idols were already proven to be pathetic and stupid, but now the Panteros are made to be pathetic and stupid too. Any of the 10 gangs from the original 3 games, including all 3 iterations of the Saints, would have wiped the floor with the Panteros, the Idols, and the new Saints as a fucking side mission. A gang of literal clowns is more threatening than any of these fuckers. You find out Sergio, leader of the Panteros, has taken her car to the quarry, meaning he intends to destroy it. You get there just in time to see him push it over the edge. The boss starts shooting at him, but Sergio activated his epic cheat codes to spawn in vehicles that weren't behind him a mere 5 seconds ago, so he could get away without being killed. This again raises the question of why not just kill Neenah? Keep in mind, this mission could have been done before the Saints recruited any gang members. This is simply the order I did it in, meaning the Panteros potentially had the chance to not only kill the traitor, but wipe out this fledgling enemy gang before it even got off the ground, and instead they decided to destroy her car for lulz. We then get a bunch of sentimental claptrap from Neenah about how it was her mother's car, and she wouldn't let anyone else drive it, and she used to drive her mother to chemo, and she promised to protect it, yada yada yada.
I drove that car all the way here from Guadalajara. My family's so far away, you know? It felt like I was keeping part of them with me. She never let anyone else drive that car.
Who?
My mom. But when chemo made her weak, I drove her around.
Oh, fuck.
I promised her I'd take care of that car.
Problem is, there's no build-up for this to have any emotional impact. This is the first and last time Neenah's family is ever mentioned in the entire main story, aside from an extremely brief mention towards the end of the game that only reuses a line of dialogue from this cutscene.
My family's so far away, you know? My family's so far away, you know?
All this crap literally just comes out of nowhere and is forgotten about immediately afterwards. Maybe the writers realized that having her get super upset about an ordinary car was stupid, despite making that the entire personality of the Panteros. That they tacked on this lazy, sad backstory in a lame attempt to make the audience feel sad, despite how absurdly and insultingly shallow it really is. They barely wrote a character for this insufferable plank of wood, and expect you to care with this ham-fisted drivel. Neenah is a quirky weirdo in a group of quirky weirdos with the depth of a mud puddle, and the writers thought, "Oh, my mom died of cancer, I told her I'd protect that car," would be enough to get people emotionally invested. I mean, it certainly works on some people.
He fucked with your car,
While
not your
this scene
family.
may not be the most revolutionary and genius bit of writing in video game history, it does have enough heart and emotion to evoke a feeling towards the character and situation.
Nope.
But it does.
That's just you, my friend.
Yeah, it doesn't. Again, she's so flat and of little character and substance that it just comes off as like being annoyingly preachy. It feels so manufactured.
Yeah. And it's so shallow. It just feels so fucking fake.
Every mission in the game is going to be like this, but when listening to reviews of the game, they make it out to seem like the whole game is washed with superficiality and staleness. And
that scene was superficial.
Superficial, yes.
Yeah, that scene was completely superficial. You could tell that they were trying so hard to manipulate your emotions.
But to anyone paying attention, it just comes off as a cheap emotional manipulation that it is. Now to reference a far superior game for the sake of comparison, let's take a look at Saints Row 2. The game starts with a young man by the name of Carlos going to jail and getting shanked just to meet Playa and help them break out of jail. Later on, Carlos is recruited to be a lieutenant for the Saints, and he goes on several missions with you.
Carlos, don't worry. I'm gonna make a banger out of you if it kills me.
As the conflict escalates between the Saints and the Brotherhood, their leader's girlfriend chains Carlos to the back of one of their trucks and drags him through the city as revenge for putting radioactive waste in Mayro's tattoo ink, and now you have to stop the truck to save Carlos. Here's how that plays out. Not a single word of dialogue. It's sad, it's fucking brutal, and it's far more impactful than anything we get in Saints Row 2022. Carlos is far beyond help, so Playa does the only thing they could do, and put him out of his misery. The game builds Carlos up to be a unique character among many others. You spend a decent amount of time with him doing missions and working against the Brotherhood, and now he's gone in such a brutal way. This is far more compelling, and there's very likely going to be far more investment from players in this character over Neenah's pathetic, "Oh no, my mom is dead from cancer, car is destroyed, sad face." Hilariously, this cutscene ends with Neenah saying that Sergio's gonna fuck with her family, she's gonna fuck with his, meaning the Panteros.
Nah, if Sergio's gonna fuck with my family, I'm gonna fuck with his.
Neenah? He didn't fuck with your family. He destroyed your car, Because if you kill Panteros, they're dead, but if you destroy their car, they're nothing. It's literally just the gang doing something related to the only thing they've been written to care about. It's also hard to take her vow of revenge seriously, not only with how poorly she's been characterized in general so far, but especially when you consider she's just a weirdo hipster clown person. This is neither intimidating nor badass at all. Next up is Idle Threat, another optional mission. It starts off with the boss and Kevin deciding to binge watch telenovelas all night.
Hey mate, you busy tonight?
I'm at the gym. It's leg day. Why?
I was gonna make popcorn and binge watch telenovelas till dawn.
Yes, we can finally find out who killed Corazon. I'll meet you at the church as soon as I'm done here.
So you're Julius's new boy, huh? You don't look like much. Then again, I don't look like I have an 8-inch cock, so I guess we're both full of surprises. The Vice Kings are named after one guy, Benjamin King. And that shit don't happen unless you're a professional or a badass. And in King's case, he's both. Hold up, I gotta take this. Aisha! What a pleasant fucking surprise. Whoa, 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 slow down. Okay, that's not slower, that's louder. Shit, where's she headed? No, don't worry, I got this.
What's up?
Some motherfuckers grabbed Aisha's sister right off the street.
Shit, man. That's the 6th girl this month. We know who's doing this?
Yeah, the Vice Kings.
No way, man. Kidnapping ain't King style.
Maybe that's Latanya going behind King's back. Don't know, don't fucking care. Now, Aisha said they were driving a yellow sedan. Tail those bitches back to wherever they go and get those girls back!
The boss continues on with the binge despite Kevin not showing up.
You just waking up?
Telenovela binge last night. Kev was supposed to join, but he stood me up.
That doesn't sound like Kev. Plus, he left his inhaler here, and he's not answering my texts.
I keep having to ask this question, but are they trying to make me think these characters are pathetic? It really feels like the game wants me to hate every single character in it. Characters needing an inhaler is typically done to show them being weak or lame in some way.
And I think I know how I can get it. Hey, I need that to live!
Even if it's not meant in a negative way, it's just got such a negative connotation at this point as far as establishing a character due to how often it's used in this way. Also, Kevin was at the gym. Why in the fuck would he leave his inhaler behind when going anywhere? Especially the gym. Anyways, this quest mostly feels like filler. You go to a bar and have a bar fight for some reason. This bar fight is random and comes out of nowhere. I can only assume one of the developers thought it would be cool to have a bar fight, like in the movies, so they put it into the game. There is no reason why the boss and the idols wouldn't be shooting at each other here. The boss finds Kevin's phone and kills a bunch of idols. Then they find an idol in a porta potty and drags it around their camp until you destroy enough shit to get him to talk. I don't know why it's a matter of destroying stuff, rather than scaring him enough to do this. Also, it just takes too long.
Stefan knows about fashion, not about gangs. Ugh.
Well, Stefan also knows Tanya, so you better start talking.
What are you doing? I don't like this. This makes me vibrate.
Wrong answer.
You and your friend with the awful hair will release Stefan at once.
Your bitch ass better stop talking in third person or I'm gonna drop you on principle.
Hell, this game has already even done this sort of thing better.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
You get the info conveniently at the same time Eli finds social media posts about the idols throwing a massive party at their mansion near a giant sign. Kevin is tied up on top of the sign and the idols are gonna blow it up. There's 5 bombs to defuse, with quite a lengthy timer. When the collective leader sees you're progressing far too quickly, they remotely cut the timer to just a couple minutes. These are people you want dead. This is a sign you want destroyed for some reason. Why the hell would you give them time if you have the ability to remotely reduce the timer on the bombs? Just set it to 1 fucking second, you weirdo! Usually a timer countdown is for something urgent. Not to imply this isn't meant to be urgent, but it's often used for enemies escaping or bombs going off that you've got placed in your car to blow something up. This is to both challenge the player and give a sense of tension and urgency for the situation. Having a character remotely decrease the timer to ramp up tension doesn't really work so well, when all it really does is serve to remind you that everyone in this game is a fucking idiot. Why in the world would you give these people a chance to escape? Especially since one of them is a traitor, and the other one's only knowable trait is being good at killing, to the point they fucked over your gang numerous times, while being the only thing keeping the Saints from being wiped out entirely and killed one of your leaders. After freeing Kevin, you're told to jump off the sign and use your wingsuit to fly down to the mansion across the street, where the idols are. This is the first time the wingsuit is even mentioned as far as I can tell. I certainly didn't notice any mention of it earlier. It's a bit confusing at first, because you almost kind of expect some kind of prompt or something to show up before you jump, but only appears after you do. Look, I've been screwed over by games telling me to do something that seems super obvious to just do through normal gameplay, only for the game to expect something entirely different, resulting in a death. So I'm a bit gun-shy when it comes to this shit. Kevin also glides down with you, with his wingsuit. The man known never for wearing a shirt. Look, clearly logic isn't this game's strong suit. Let's just say he's part flying squirrel and move on. You start killing the idols at the mansion until the collective leader lands the helicopter. Then you kill them too. Yeah, that's the mission. Over and done with. And a second member of the collective. Just dead. Also, why the fuck does their helmet have a special display for when they're dead? Moving on, Neenah has devised a plan for revenge. Blow up the Forge and all of their cars. We learn that the Forge is part of this car manufacturing plant, the Pantero Zone. According to Neenah, they can make anything using this thing. It's how Sergio's monster truck that we saw get heavily damaged, or even destroyed earlier in the game, shows up in this mission. Okay, so that's not how any of that works at all. Having a forge to smelt steel is one thing, but putting that steel into a useful shape is a bit more difficult. They would need the proper molds for frames and everything, and this place just does not seem like it has the equipment to make these cars. Not to mention, simply having a forge and all these molds don't account for the fact that you still need all the other parts to make a car. The engine, the spark plugs, seats, tires, wiring. Look, I'm not a car guy. I can't name every part that goes into a car, but you get the point. There's a lot of parts that go into a car that aren't a result of simply melting steel into the appropriate shape. Having a really good machine to melt steel down doesn't automatically mean you can just build anything, but this game treats it as though it is. Neenah says it will be easy, as it's the first Wednesday of the month, so it's barbecue day, so everyone will be outside. I really don't get what this absurdly infantile take on what gangs are. What, are we going to attack them during nap time next? Maybe morning prayer? How about during their day at the beach? Or even a group therapy session? Where is the mission, where Sergio talks about his childhood trauma that led him to a life of crime, and we all have a good old cry about it as he realizes the personal issues he has to work through to become a better person. Speaking of Sergio, he's out doing collections right now, so he's out of the picture and won't know until it's too late. Shouldn't he be the first one notified once the factory comes under attack? Also, why is the big boss doing collections? Typically you'd have people to do that for you. Your lieutenants or capos likely wouldn't even be the ones to directly go out and collect them. They'd send lower level members to do collecting for them, literally called enforcers, as they enforce the orders of the gang. Then the lieutenants and capos would pass that along to the boss. Also, rather convenient that the gang-wide barbecue day won't be attended by the big boss, so you have no chance to kill him here. We'll get to that later. Also, Neenah never considered how you'd even get into the factory. Her whole plan is essentially they made me sad, so I'm gonna wreck their shit, but I have no idea how I'm going to do it. You steal a tourist assault chopper to go raid the base.
Are we gonna get inside the Scorpion sector?
By liberating a helicopter from the aerial gun range.
What now?
It's a tourist thing. They hire out helicopters with machine gun turrets, then fly them over the desert and shoot whatever might be out there to shoot.
This is for fucking real.
I know, right?
Yes, this is totally wacky and weird and funny and fits in with the series perfectly. It totally isn't lazy awful writing. Why does the vent cover fall through the floor? This is pretty much a standard affair. Kill a bunch of people, blow shit up. You get to the forge room to find Sergio's monster truck there. You have to defend Neenah and press a few buttons for her while she uses a crane to put explosives into the truck, then sends it into the forge to blow up. Then you have to defend her, if her fucking AI decides to work, while she hotwires a test car to escape. In fact, she says,
Now, what was your exit plan? I planned that you'd improvise. I trust you too.
Which makes the car being here even more of an absurd coincidence for the sake of pure convenience and nothing else. There was no plan for escape, and there just so happens to be a car perfectly set up to ramp out of a window. I love how there's a giant collapsed piece of cement that's perfectly positioned to ramp out of here through a window, especially considering that the roof is still fully intact. My problem with stuff like this is that they could have had a ramp exist in a far more logical way. There's no reason to make it stupid like this, but they did it anyways. Just like the rest of this game. If they at least had an escape plan that was impossible now due to the factory being on fire, that would at least be a bit better. Maybe even have it so the car isn't lined up perfectly with a ramp made out of rubble with a window behind it. You could have a scene where they're frantically trying to get out, then they see something collapse that leads to an upper level with the window to crash through, rather than the immediately convenient setup of a car on a perfect straight shot to a window. I suppose one of the bigger issues is how significant of a mission this is in the storyline, and this is really only the second quest against the Pantero since the Saints have formed. Raiding the Carnali's mansion is the second last mission, not the second mission. This is the kind of mission that should have been done once the Panteros have been weakened, they're losing territory to you, you've taken over or destroyed their operations. But even that isn't really in the main story to this game. In fact, it's not even clear what missions award you territory, assuming they even do, as you're never told what territory you gain. I check the map from time to time to see some areas are randomly purple now. This is totally unlike the original games, where you always gain territory even in situations where it doesn't exactly make sense for you to have gained the territory. Everything about this game is so insufferable that I didn't waste any time playing the side activities, so I don't know if you gain territory through doing them, but this means that by the end of the main story, you kill or displace the leaders of the enemy gangs, and yet the gangs still exist and control much of the same territory they already did. And again, you're never explicitly told what territories you gain. Additionally, why not take over the forge and use it for yourself rather than destroying it? There isn't really any excuse to not take it if it's as valuable as Neenah says it is. It can't be an issue of manpower, because the Saints are extremely popular now due to the game literally telling us this. In fact, there's less excuse here than even the original had. Sure, there's some gang members in Saints Row 1, but the whole point is that you're starting out basically from nothing. So when you go to take over the Carnali's drug production operation, should you do their storyline first, then it comes off as a bit strange to think the Saints would be able to hold this territory. It's not completely outside the realm of possibility either, but there's a bit less to support it than Saints Row 2022 has, because the new game goes out of its way to specifically tell you that you have a ton of gang members following you now. But oh, Neenah wants revenge. I guess we gotta blow it up. At this point, the game should largely be about taking territory from enemy gangs, ruining their plans, taking their operations, not because that's sort of the formula for the series, but simply because it makes sense from a story perspective of taking down enemy gangs. You attack their source of income, take out key figures, try to drive a wedge between them and whatever allies they may have, but instead, we have to deal with these utterly insufferable characters so shallow, a sheet of paper has more goddamn depth. Speaking of insufferable and shallow, next up is Dustmoot. This mission is a waste of time in a game already full of waste of time missions. It's a city-wide live-action role-playing session, and it's exactly as dumb as it sounds. Eli doesn't have enough experience to join any of the houses, so he brings you in so he can do some grinding to get enough XP to join the house he wants to. Seems a bit cheap to me that you could just bring some rando into the game to boost yourself. He gives you a toy gun and tells you to shoot someone, with a couple of rando nameless NPCs in the area. As Eli explains, everyone in the city is in on the game. Every single person without exception. This is just the developers being lazy and stupid, because the knock-on effect of this is kind of insane. As my friend Setch tested out extensively in his own streams, it really is everyone. Cop got someone pulled over? Shoot him with the toy gun and he'll pretend to die. Paramedics trying to revive someone? Shoot them and they'll play dead. Enemy gang members who want to kill you? You bet your fucking ass they'll stop and play dead too. Even the idols, who don't care about anything else in the world besides bringing society down. Even fucking Marshall, the private military group that hates your guts. It's fucking insanity. It seems that this line was thrown into the game as a way for the developers to be lazy. Rather than coding in the toy gun to not do anything to normal NPCs, or to have them react and attack you, they will ham act dying, then lay down on the ground and turn into a ragdoll as any other NPC you actually kill will do. They'll even drop the appropriate loot, typically cash and ammo. Worse yet, this goes so far as to show that the cars are all in on the LARP too. If you shoot cars with the toy gun, their doors will fly off, they will fucking explode. The tires can be flattened with the foam bullets too. In essence, the toy gun is exactly the same as a normal gun, with the exception of characters pretend dying for a moment before actually dying. It's also worth noting for some reason that every female LARPer in this mission is fat. Are you trying to say something, Volition? Seems a bit sexist and fat-shaming, you fucking bigots. Jokes aside, it does genuinely seem mean-spirited to depict all the female LARPers as fat. On top of that, depicting all the LARPers, male or female, is just a bunch of weirdos that strap cardboard to themselves in their vehicles. It does a big disservice to those who put time and effort into their characters, some even going so far as to learn tailoring, leatherworking, and even blacksmithing to do so. Besides the cringe, this mission is fairly standard. Shoot a bunch of people, and that's about it. The real question is why the fuck is this kind of crap in a Saints Row game? Sure, it's not mandatory to complete the game, but it's still there. This doesn't feel like it fits in with a game about gangs at all. Additionally, Gwen is mentioned. Yeah, her. You don't see her again after the museum mission at all, unless you play the full Dustmoot missions, and because I didn't want to waste any more time on this game than I really needed to in order to make this video, I didn't do the rest of these missions.
What a shame.
Next up is the Frontier. So during game night, where the Pussy Posse is naturally playing the most infantile looking game possible, they discuss paying the gang.
I don't like it, Eli.
Yeah, no doubt. This fucker's hogging all the sloths.
I'm talking about what we're paying the crew.
You mean what we're not paying the crew?
Bullets and 401ks are expensive.
There's a bunch of ways we can get some quick cash. Neenah can boost some cars, I'll do hits, Kev can run a bake sale.
I'm not sure that's gonna work.
Look, man, I know I normally do savory, but I can bake the shit out of some macaron.
Dex, don't worry, I have a plan.
Johnny, your idea of a plan is taking the biggest hammer you can find and smashing whatever's in your way.
Well, that sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah, a shitty one, as your whack-ass robo-leg clearly proves.
Oh, fuck you.
Next time you try that cowboy shit, you might not walk away at all.
No, seriously. Fuck you.
Look, I worked out a plan that will hurt the Kings and put minimum risk on you.
How much murdering do I get to do?
None.
Your plan blows.
Hear me out, alright? Kings obviously got something going on with the police. I'll figure that shit out. In the meantime, I want you two to go out and cause some havoc. If we can turn the public's eye to the Kings, then the police won't have a choice but to come down on them.
Okay, so we go and do some damage. How do the VKs get blamed?
Put these on.
I'm yellow enough as it is, Dex.
Just put the damn shirt on.
Fine. Get dressed. We got a little piece to disturb.
The developers once again showing their utter ineptitude as to how anything works to give us a mission that feels like padding, and the forced rescue of a character most people will have forgotten by this point. See, this is the type of thing that wouldn't even really concern you in an older Saints Row game. Neenah suggests raiding a fortress train, as it will have a lot of cash it's bringing into town to keep the bank supplied. So this is a major operation for no other given reason than to simply pay the gang. It could simply naturally be assumed that gang members get money from the regular criminal activities that a gang would get involved in. Instead, this game is so incompetently written that we need to answer this question across a few missions for the stupid train heist, and it only results in so many more issues occurring as a result. First of all, paying your gang members is going to be pretty much a permanent requirement, and the solution, naturally, is to have them do jobs. Extort protection money, sell drugs, steal valuable items, and sell them to a fence, so on and so forth. The way gangs make money is essentially a pyramid scheme, and that the normal street thugs will then kick up a portion of their earnings to the next guy up the ladder, usually an enforcer who will collect from all his little street thugs. Then that enforcer will kick up the ladder to a lieutenant, who collects from all the enforcers under their command. The lieutenant to the captains, to the underbosses, to the big boss himself. Your kick-up is essentially protection money paid to the next guy up the ladder. The more you pay, the more valuable of an earner you are to them, and thus that guy in the ladder will protect you or go to bat for you when legal problems arrive. The better an earner you are, the more likely your problems, whatever they may be, will get moved up higher and higher up the chain, because if you, a really valuable earner, aren't earning, then the money going up slows down. However, the way the Saints operate in this game means they are paying their gang members like some traditional company, as if they are employees, not people paying the higher-ups for protection. So the train job is only going to be a temporary solution to a recurring problem. In any other game, doing such a heist would either be a job you do for a higher-ranking member of the gang, or something you do yourself to make your own gang stronger overall. They didn't need this bullshit reasoning, but threw it in anyways, because I suppose all those gangsters need to pay their student loan debts too. Neenah also mentions the Forge. She realizes that the Forge has been working so much because Sergio is finally planning on raiding the train, which is where she got the idea from in the first place, because he apparently talked about it a lot. Which would mean, if you've taken out the Forge and destroyed a great deal of their cars and killed a whole bunch of their gang members, then maybe they wouldn't have the equipment or manpower to raid the train. Right? Well, let's just keep that in mind for later. Dealing with both Marshall and the Panteros is going to be a huge job, so the boss wants to recruit some help, specifically the Nuwali. No idea why the boss thinks he'd want to help them at all. This means you have to break him out of Marshall's prison. Why does the vent cover fall through the floor? Inside, it's a bit of a dumb stealth mission where the boss acts incredibly suspiciously by taking weird routes to avoid being looked at too long by Marshall guards, with a bunch of awful dialogue between the boss and Neenah about stealth. Keep in mind that a lot of Marshall's troops wear fully face-concealing masks, so this is even more idiotic than it already is. Just wear one of Marshall's masks.
Evening. Want to get out of here?
You put me in here.
Career change. Got a job in mind for you. Sit tight.
Why does no one care that this rando guard walked into the room and started talking to what is essentially the most dangerous man in the world? The boss eventually gets found out when they're in the control room, when the commanding officer recognizes who they are, and the prison goes into lockdown. Shooting a bunch of computer servers will open the doors and free the Nuwali, but this doesn't actually work until your character has the idea for it. Ah yes, Old Faithful, the obnoxious trope that if you destroy a computer or a keypad, all the security doors will just open. It is far more entertaining when a piece of media actually recognizes the stupidity and has the door now stuck in whatever position it was in, like it logically would in the real world. It's also fucking hilarious that if you actually pay attention to what's happening in the room, you'll notice that once the guards start firing, the Nuwali is still sitting in a cell for a bit, before suddenly teleporting outside, and is just standing there, doing nothing at all, while the guards shoot in random directions. Now oftentimes stuff like this can happen in games, because it's simply unnecessary to program special and unique animations that hardly anyone is going to see for a scene you're not supposed to pay too much attention to. However, most games also try to obscure it in some way, so you get an idea of what's happening without seeing that some shortcuts were taken.
Blimey. We should go.
What makes you think there is a we?
Finally! A character that acts logically. Somewhat, at least. Let's hope they don't somehow manage to ruin him for no reason before the end of the game. That would be terrible if they did that. Anyways, he's still probably going to need help getting out, but at least he's not fully on board immediately.
If there's not, you'll never know why I risked breaking you out.
Very well, Linda.
Somehow this convinces him. Again, why would he care in the slightest? He's got his own gang, and as we see towards the end of the game, they still exist. He probably has his own shit to do. Why not convince him that he still needs your help to escape? Anyways, blowing up the computers results in a massive prison riot, and you now have to fight your way to the exit, including a couple rooms where you have to kill every martial guard, so they'll open the security doors and send more in. Now I know I've already mentioned the game will play music during missions, but this is one of the most egregious examples in the entire game. After replaying the mission and listening closely and looking up what lyrics I could pull out of it, I found that the song is Slam by Onyx. Now this isn't intended to start any kind of debate about whether or not the song is even good, nor is it a commentary on music in general, but the way it's utilized here is exceedingly obnoxious. Now I can't tell for sure, but it feels as though they lengthened the chorus, as it seems to go on for quite a while. The result is an extremely repetitive and obnoxious background track that is on by default and can only be removed if you disable the music entirely in the audio options, which is something you shouldn't need to do. This is not the only example of the game forcing repetitive music upon you either. While doing the side missions to steal the food trucks that are running drugs, if you turn off the radio, this music will play on a short loop ad fucking nauseum. It is incredibly annoying, so it fits in perfectly with the rest of this game. Apparently part of the plan was for the boss in the Nuwali to be picked up by Neenah on the roof with a chopper. Which, dear fucking god, why did you ever think that would be possible? You get into a car, ramp out of the base into an extremely convenient barren road that would never be used by anyone because the only way to access it is by using this ramp, and as such, with no vehicles traversing it and no one to upkeep this very specific piece of dirt roadway, there's no way it would be so clear and in such conveniently drivable condition, and the only place it goes is back into the prison and ramps you onto the roof, which conveniently leads to another ramp so you can crash into a conveniently placed helicopter and blow it up. Why in the sweet motherest of fucks did you put beat into the fucking subtitles? Holy fucking shit. Stop! The Nuwali is glad to be free, and is happy to just walk to wherever he's going. He even says he understands what it's like to have to follow orders, and says to call him later to talk about this job. Overall, he's being extremely reasonable, and is already the most likable character in the game by default. After that is The Fast and the Foodiest, and I honest to god do not understand why this exists as a mission. Now while it is one of the semi-optional missions, it seems to serve no actual purpose other than to add more shit sprinkles to the shit cake. You see, McDonald's has brought back an old Happy Meal toy that everyone had as a kid, and Kevin wants one because he never got one at the orphanage. The writers were so absurdly uncreative that they call it a mecha burger. So you drive them to one location and cut in line only to find they're sold out. You go to another location to find the idols have stolen all the toys for some reason.
They're all gone. Those horrible people in pink stole the entire shipment. They said something about striking a blow against capitalistic materialism and soggy french fries.
Fucking idols.
Ah yes, we'll surely bring down the system by stealing cheap kids' toys from a fast food chain. When they write the history of how the corporate machine fell, they will say it began today. If you fail the mission, you're locked into listening to this line of dialogue every single time. You chase down the idols and get the car with the toys, and that's it. That's the mission. Kevin says he wants you to help him bring the rest to the orphanage later.
There. You are now the proud owner of 500 limited edition Mecha Burgers.
Nah, I just want one. Maybe sometime you could help me bring the rest down to the county orphanage?
Okay, it looks like the cops been getting in on some of King's protection rackets. Now that's why they've been going so easy on the VKs. We gotta go public with this shit. Now if we...
Don't worry, Dex. I have something more subtle in mind.
Johnny, you can't be serious.
Fuck yeah, I am.
Where did you get those?
Anthony's condo. He had a big mouth.
This isn't gonna end well.
Don't listen to the old woman. I'll drive to where the cops are picking up protection money. You make them cease and desist with one of Tony's noisemakers. If we make sure the only cops we hit are the ones working for King, people gonna start asking questions, and the cops are gonna have no choice but to come down on the VKs to save face. Let's do this.
I wonder if I still have that old Santa Claus costume somewhere.
Doesn't that costume have a shirt?
Not when I wear it, baby.
Jesus Christ, you fucking degenerate. Stop! This is not endearing. It makes me think you should be on a goddamn watch list. Then we get Idle Hands, another optional mission. Your mail has been stolen. You talk to the mailman, and he tells you they went that way. So you kill some idols here, you kill some idols there, you kill some more idols over here. Collect your stolen packages, and that's the mission. By the way, the stolen packages were all the knives the boss ordered in their cartoon depression. Then we get another Eli quest. Oh joy. Shootin the Sh has Eli watching you shoot barrels so he can learn how to shoot.
What weapons do you plan to use?
Oh, I'm more of a book learner. I've done some research already. I just wanted to watch you, ask questions, and take notes.
That's not really how you learn to shoot.
Hey, everybody learns differently.
He set up these barrel launchers to hurl explosive barrels at you? What, are there no gun ranges in the city? Why set up this overly elaborate bullshit for learning to shoot?
Hey, wow. Eli, you set this range up yourself?
Yep. I didn't have any clay pigeons, so I had to make do with what I could find.
Then go fucking buy them, you utter plank! How is setting up an explosive barrel launcher easier than going to the store?
Next, my research said keep your eyes open when you shoot.
I know I've said it 100 times already, but I don't know why the developers expect anyone to like or care about these characters when they're constantly portrayed to be this fucking stupid. Yes, you need your eyes in order to aim. It is a very, very important component of hitting your fucking target.
Oh, and my research said to squeeze the trigger instead of pulling it?
What's the fucking difference? There's just a feel to it. Look.
Once again making the boss look like an absolute fucking lemon. Eli is actually right here. There is a big difference, as pulling the trigger moves the entire gun, because the action of pulling the trigger pulls the gun as well, and moves your wrist out of alignment with your arm. This fucks up your aim for obvious reasons, whereas squeezing the trigger doesn't. After a few rounds of this, Marshall shows up, mad that you're on their land.
Trespassers on martial land will be shot!
Grab a gun.
You're fair game now!
That's right, wankers!
Land that isn't clearly marked to be theirs is literally a few meters off the public road, and their reaction is to murder them. Yep, we're still in Clown World. How did Eli set up these contraptions without them noticing before?
You won't get away with our training secrets!
With each passing moment, I grow more frustrated with the stupidity of this game. Eli said he set this up.
Eli, you set this range up yourself.
Yep. I didn't have any clay pigeons, so I had to make do with what I could find.
Now Marshall's claiming we're stealing their training secrets. So which is it? Did Eli lie to his friend he cares very much about? If so, then that means Marshall is so fucking inept and stupid that its super secret training program is to shoot barrels out of the air and is set up next to a public road that is currently in use. You're telling me an organization this big doesn't have their own regular-ass gun range within any of their facilities, nor do they simply just practice on the homeless? See, that's a joke that might have been in this game if it wasn't utter dog shit. If Eli wasn't lying, then what the fuck is Marshall going on about that you're stealing their training secrets? Either way, this makes no sense and is stupid like the rest of this game. You kill some Marshall on sight and you drive away, with Eli doing the roof riding thing for some reason. What happened to plain old shooting from the seat you're in? I keep wishing for physics to realign and start working properly again, so I can crash into a building at full speed, so he can fly headfirst into concrete at 80 miles per hour. While this is an optional mission for the main story, like the others, it is required to do the post-game missions, which again raises the question of why is this garbage filler nonsense in this game, rather than taking the fight to the enemy gangs. Keep in mind, through all of that, your character never actually taught Eli to shoot. The boss just gave really bad advice, then had to keep saying, just watch what I do, which is just so helpful. You don't try to correct his posture, help him understand proper grip and sight alignment, work on how to manage and not flinch from recoil. Eli just magically knows how to shoot now, because the script said so, when in reality, Eli is now the one thing actual gun owners fear, besides a criminal organization known as the ATF. An idiot with no control or concept of safety now has a gun. Anyways, this quest sucks. Moving right along to Drawing Heat, which is a fairly straightforward optional mission. Some of the gang members committed a crime. You check up on them to get your share of the money. Your share, implying the gang members who took the armored truck took their own share. Meaning your gang members are getting their share of the profits from jobs the gang is doing. Meaning the entire point of the train heist has just been nullified, because the whole point was to pay your gang members. I swear this fucking game was designed to test my patience, though it's more likely that it was designed to break basic logic at every moment possible. There's not much to this mission. You fight off some cops until the nameless randos escape, then you blow up a bunch of cop cars until the mission ends. There's a news report about the gang in which the cops call them the Purple Shirt Mafia. Neenah is understandably concerned, as this implies there will be bigger issues for the gang for being recognized like this, and there is a small storyline regarding this, but it's all optional when something like this should have been part of the main story. It's additionally worth noting that part of this mission is incredibly poorly designed. When the cops show up to arrest your gang, a group can spawn on the highway overpass nearby. The highway overpass that is entirely inaccessible to you. There are no nearby ramps onto the highway, and if you leave the mission zone for the absurdly low time of just a few seconds, you fail the mission. There is no vantage point where you could get a better shot on them either. You pretty much have to hope they randomly die, with your only options being shooting at vehicles they may be near in hopes you blow them up. Vehicles you can barely see, mind you. Or you have to hope that by shooting towards the highway, this will cause NPC drivers to go into panic mode and run over the cops. Otherwise, you're left to sit around and wait, and in the worst case, you have to restart the mission and hope they don't spawn up there again. Restarting the mission is a far worse fate than it may initially appear, because you have to listen to Neenah and the boss again. I don't know who thought this was a good idea, but this is some serious fucking bullshit. Moving right along, Donut Run is yet another waste of time padding quest that doesn't seem to serve any real purpose. The boss is sent to get donuts for the next corporate street gang meeting. While in line, a random person recognizes the boss and tries to kill them. A bunch of other people try to as well. Kevin realizes that the boss is a target on a hitman app on the phone with a massive bounty.
Sounds like you're... Oh shit, yeah, you're on the warrant app.
I'm what?
Anybody in town could be trying to kill you for the bounty.
This sounds like he knew already and just remembered. If that's the case, why didn't he tell you sooner? The majority of the quest is defending yourself from randos at the donut shop until Kevin shows up, defending his car from randos as he drives to his friends, who started the Wanted app, and defending their home as they try to take you off the app, as scores of more people show up to kill you. Also, they only agreed to remove the boss from the app because they put them on the Wanted app with an equally high bounty. There's no follow-up on this in any way during the main story either. You never find out who wanted you dead so badly and had the money to pay. By the way, how does Kevin know these guys? Because he fucked them, of course.
How do you know these two hacker guys?
They wanted. Back when it was a dating app.
I dated one of them.
Both. We had a really special week together.
There's also this really dumb back and forth, where they have a vote on changing their policy to take people off the app.
Oh, I'm sorry. We never curate user content on the Wanted app. Corporate policy!
Yeah? How about I put you two gits on the app?
Wait, what?
Got more users incoming.
We'll hold them off if you two clean up this mess.
Motion to amend corporate policy? Second! All in favor? Aye! Motion passes. Hurry! Take us all off!
I don't know why they can't just get right to it. Also, it looks really shitty when these NPCs are locked in place until their scripted dialogue ends. Much of the game is like this. Additionally, this app has even worse ramifications for the entire world. This is an app that exists, and is so public that you have hundreds of people in this small town trying to kill you to get the bounty. Can anyone just submit a name to this app and offer to pay big bucks? If so, is there some way to track this money or anything? Cause what if you say put a hit out on your significant other for 10k? So a bunch of randos go gung-ho crazy and off them, so you could collect a life insurance policy for $1 million. Is that first-degree murder in this universe? It can't be because the Wanted app exists in the public space, and people that put out the bounties aren't charged. Ergo, the police and government allow this to operate as a legitimate business. Wait, that in itself is completely fucked. So what if you put the mayor, or the governor, or even the president on this app? The wacky weird bullshit doesn't excuse this, because the implications are absolutely insane. After that, we get Corporate Retreat. The Nawali calls to prepare for the train heist. He shows up under the reasonable expectation that he'd be planning the heist, or acquiring materials necessary for the heist. Instead, they have a vacation day to do team-building exercises, so they could get to know the Nawali better and vice versa. It's exactly as inane and fucking stupid as it sounds.
I'm Kevin. Everyone calls me Kev.
You're not wearing a shirt.
Less shirt, more power.
I'm not sure that's how it works.
Yeah, don't try to figure it out. I'm Neenah. It's nice to meet you.
Yes, a pleasure. So, shall we plan the heist?
No.
I thought you called me here because you wanted to prepare for the robbery.
Correct.
So we are planning the heist?
No.
Okay, I must admit, I'm confused. What are we doing?
Team building.
What?
Look, you don't know us, we don't know you, but we're putting our lives in each other's hands, so we need to be on the same page. Eli threw out the idea that we should spend a day doing some team-building exercises. You know, so we can really get a sense of camaraderie.
We have hats.
I thought we agreed to use the fleur.
This is better.
I'm with Neenah.
I have so many questions.
And that, my friend, is what team building is all about.
The Nawali is understandably left confused by this inane fucking bullshit, but goes along with it anyways. At this point, he's by far the most likable character in the game, and feels the most like a character that might have been in the original games.
Check it out. The best RV money can rent.
While continuing with the trend of making these characters pathetic and unlikable, the rented RV thing comes up a few times in this mission. Towards the end, when the group is being attacked by Marshall, Eli is worried about the deposit for renting the RV, and the RV being destroyed as a fail state, even including a comment that Eli can't get his deposit back now. Christ almighty, this is irritating as fuck. You are a gang, a criminal street gang involved in numerous criminal operations. A mission as pointless and stupid as this wouldn't exist in the original Saints Row games, but if it had, Johnny Gat wouldn't have fucking rented it. He'd have stolen it, and would make some kind of comment about the original owner being in the hospital or dead, or being threatened with either to give up the RV. And he wouldn't give a single flying fuck if it were destroyed. Yes, an important vehicle being destroyed during a mission has been a failstate before, but that is in missions where you need to keep using said vehicle, or it is important for plot reasons. Even when it's parked and you don't need it anymore, the RV being destroyed is a failstate because of Eli's fucking deposit on it. Anyways, everyone gets to choose an activity. Neenah decides to paint over a Panteros mural.
I'm up first, and I brought the spray paint. I know a place in Mercado that's just begging for a Saints mural.
Isn't that Panteros turf?
All the more reason.
All right, we get to see the magic happen.
So we are engaging in common vandalism.
Excuse me?
Hold on, it's not vandalism, it's art.
Damn right it is.
Art made illegally. With spray paint.
Look, Neenah's brilliant. It will be an amazing mural for everyone to enjoy, you'll see.
Are you sure we shouldn't be planning the heist?
Yes, I planned today to be just for fun.
This is what you do? Painting? I thought you were criminals.
No, yes. This is Panteros turf. Neenah ran with him before we started the Saints. So for her to be here, putting up our colours...
Ah, she's showing defiance in the face of her enemies. This, I understand.
The Nawali naturally thinks this is a dumb waste of time, until he has to rationalize it as showing defiance to her enemies. Some Panteros show up and the boss complains about having to kill on the team building vacation day. You literally came to their turf and disrespected them, you absolute plank. What did you expect? Next, they go to a bar to do some karaoke together. Luckily for everyone, Marshall shows up and prevents us from having to suffer through that. You steal one of their hover bikes and rush off to a nearby lake, because Kevin wants to mess around with the hover bikes, and the Nawali thinks they'd be useful for the train heist. As it turns out, the lake has a bunch of idol members here. That's how Kevin knew it was a good spot to hang out.
Kev, what the hell? This place is crawling with idols.
Yeah, that's how I know the spot. Chris Jetski's here.
This motherfucker is so stupid that he thought a regular idol's hangout spot would be a good place to fuck around. After killing the idols, Marshall shows up again and chases the group. The Nawali decides his activity for the team building day is to kill the fuck out of the Panteros, idols, and Marshall, who follow the group back to his hideout. And thus begins the Nawali becoming infected with the inane stupidity of the main cast of this game, like a virulent plague eating through his established character to devolve him into the perfect form of stupidity. But we'll get to that later. That said, the virus is already working its way through him, as he gets even worse by the cutscene at the end of the mission, where he's referencing some of the dumb things they've mentioned throughout the mission in a jokey sort of way.
Love Shack? We haven't done Love Shack since Ghost Pepper Night.
Kevin, we do not talk about Ghost Pepper Night.
It's true. I cannot recall having a more memorable time.
Same here. Not since Ghost Pepper Night.
Kevin, we do not speak of Ghost Pepper Night, eh?
I'm sorry. There is no cure. We're gonna have to put him down.
I guess what I'm saying is, I know you're looking at the heist as a one-and-done sort of thing. You know, a debt that you're paying off, but it doesn't have to be.
Paying off a debt? Motherfucker, you two are already even. He owes you nothing. You put him in jail and then broke him out. The debt is squared. I genuinely wonder if the writers even understand what they wrote here, because it comes across as the boss being nothing more than an entitled cunt. As if they feel the Nawali owes them for not only something he never asked for, not only for a job he was offered and wasn't required to do, but for freeing him of the imprisonment that the boss put him in the first place. Fuck right the hell off. Additionally, this mission will change your character's outfit to keep the stupid waffle cat hat on, so you have to go manually change it back. Finally, we get to the Great Train Robbery, with little to no setup. Just for a point of comparison real quickly, in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, one of the very late game missions is robbing a casino, but it isn't a matter of saying, hey, let's do this thing, and then just doing it. There are numerous missions leading up to the ultimate heist, all in preparation for the big day. Getting the blueprints for the building, securing an armored truck, and police motorcycles to escort it, keycard access, and so forth. The lead up to the heist was almost a whole storyline in and of itself. This train heist is somewhat comparable, as in it's a big fucking job that should be planned for, but it just isn't. You break out the Nawali to help you, and that's pretty much the extent of it. You do use the hover bikes from the corporate retreat mission, but acquiring that resource was entirely unplanned. So this climactic mission towards the end of the game just kinda happens because they decided to do it. With no planning, no real build-up in any way that makes sense, with no overarching story, all for the sake of not completing some personal goal, nor to better the gang overall, and not to take down an enemy gang, but because they needed to pay their glorified employees that the game insists are gangsters, which the game itself undermines by showing them getting paid for doing a job. The mission starts off with a short cutscene where the boss gives the Nawali a knife. One of the ones they ordered during their depression shopping binge. Stop bringing up this plot point. It's fucking embarrassing you included this in the game at all. We don't need to be reminded of it repeatedly. Also, why the fuck would you give this guy a knife? He's got knives strapped to every part of his body. I think he'll be fine. After that, both hover bikes are trailing the train, and the one Kevin and the Nawali are on gets instantly disabled by gunfire, resulting in you to— Whoa, what the fuck is this design? This train is like 3 to 4 times wider than any actual train would ever be, and most of it is used for entirely empty space. You would not have this much empty space on a train. These enclosed cars aren't even designed to hold much more cargo than what's here. Troop transport cars have a couple rows of seats and a fuckload of pointless empty space between them. You'd almost have to shout to talk to the person sitting across from you. So, the more weight and wind resistance a train has, the harder the engine has to work to move it, resulting in more fuel being used. This is how most vehicles work. You would never have this much pointless empty space in a train car. If this train car were filled to capacity, we're talking a grand total of 24 seats, 3 sets of rolling lockers, and pointless empty space. A double-decker passenger car can hold about 100 people, though this obviously varies based on design. With this shit, there's so much extra material being used to make it, meaning unnecessary extra weight per car, but also the fact that it's wider, and the cars aren't placed logically, so all the tall ones are up front, meaning you're getting a shit ton of wind resistance, all for the sake of a dumb fuck set piece. Similarly, the train cars meant for cargo are mostly empty, for no goddamn reason, with props being placed seemingly at random. Anyways, you play most of the mission by yourself, raising the question of why the Nawali was even needed, as he doesn't have any particularly special skills that are used in this mission, and he only does like one thing of any significance. You also have to disable a turret at one point as well. Why can't you destroy the server until your character has the idea for it? Most of the mission is fighting through waves of martial troops and the Panteros when they show up. Wait a sec, I thought the Panteros were using the Forge to prepare for this heist. How could they still attempt the heist if a great deal of their cars were destroyed along with the Forge? Hell, there's even a line referencing this.
Didn't we blow up all these fucking trucks?
Lampshading a problem doesn't make it not a problem.
Sergio's still around somewhere and he's out for blood.
Let him come. I'm past ready to boss battle that wanker.
Jesus Christ, shut the fuck up, you soggy waffle. Neenah has to sort of leapfrog the Nawali about the train. She drops you off, goes back to pick him up. The back half of the train gets decoupled from the front half, so she drops him off, grabs you, drops you off on the rest of the train, and goes back to get him as you're doing all the work. Eventually, Sergio himself shows up in person with an epic intro. Well, this could be interesting. We've barely seen or heard anything from him directly, so it's about time they started doing something with him. I wonder how the situation— oh, the Nawali killed him. Huh, just like that, eh? No real build-up of his character, nothing about his goals or motivations, no giving him any kind of unique personality or even boss fight, nor some epic finale mission to take him out. He just kinda dies like a bitch in a cutscene. What's worse is that the boss just kinda steps to the side, and when the Nawali comes in, the boss is lying down as if they've been knocked out or something. I don't know, I guess the boss just decided to have a nap or something? Why the fuck would you wipe the blood off on your shirt? You fight through a small section of the train with him before getting separated. You're locked in a car with several smoke grenades going off and martial soldiers come in to fight you. Somehow, you've lost communication with the Nawale despite still being able to talk to Neenah and the others. After you get through that car, the game finally reveals why this train is so goddamn wide. A tank like this could probably fit onto a normal flatbed train car. However, for gameplay, it would be very easy to fail the mission here, as it would likely be easy for the tank to fall off or get stuck. So they just made it wide as a motherfucker and gave you a bunch of shit to blow up. Eventually a VTOL takes off and you're told to shoot it down. It crashes into the front, and we get to a cutscene.
God. That is not a tank. What that was a fucking embarrassment. What? Cutscene froze.
What the fuck is happening?
Cutscene's having some issues, everybody. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening right now.
I just hear grunts and groans and everything, and that's it.
Yeah, what the fuck is happening? Did the game just freeze?
It looks like it.
Amazing.
Yep.
Great game.
Oh, it crashed.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. Thanks. Patched version, everybody. Patched version.
Yeah. Oh god, if it starts me at the very start of the mission again. Oh.
Apparently this is an issue a lot of people had, but this cutscene would crash the game. My friend Setch played through this mission 3 to 4 times, with it crashing at this cutscene each time. He was able to get by it by skipping the cutscene, but there's no good reason a game should be released in this state. Like the rest of this game, this entire cutscene is just an abortion of physics. Let's just ignore it and move on. The group returns to Saints HQ and have a money fight, with Eli almost caving in Kevin's head with a gold bar. Once again showing an alternate timeline I would have preferred, but also showing how dumb these characters are once again. Not to mention, how did weak baby arms Eli of all people actually lift that gold bar to begin with? Gold bars are incredibly heavy, as gold is a very dense metal. Oh wait, it's this game. Physics don't apply here. So, what's the next step after that? I mean, maybe now we'll finally take the fight to the enemy gangs, right? I mean, it's about goddamn time. This is one extremely long prologue to get us to the point of actually going after the enemy gangs, of which some of the leaders have already been killed. In the original 2 games, there were a couple tutorial or early story missions to get things rolling, then you immediately get into taking each gang down, and we haven't gotten there yet. Maybe Sergio's second in command will take over the gang now. Who was the second in command again? Wait, what's that? He didn't have one? I'm starting to think this game, in a series all about taking out enemy gangs, isn't actually about taking out enemy gangs. Well actually, for the first time we get a mandatory main story mission where the initial intent is to fuck with an enemy gang, and it not just being part of the mission by happenstance. Well, maybe. Some of the sites I checked during my research said that the Forge mission was optional, but I'm not entirely sure on that. In Going Overboard, the boss had Kevin steal the Hummingbird Codex back from the idols.
Which means there's one thing left to do. How do we make a statement?
Well, we just robbed a money train and killed Sergio in a particularly horrific fashion.
Oh, so you ripped out Sergio's heart.
I was there for moral support.
It doesn't matter, because word on the street is that the Nawale was a one-man wrecking crew. The Saints didn't get any shine from the heist. So, we're gonna need something that establishes us as an institution.
How the fuck is this a story that everyone is spreading? The boss literally did 95% of the work. Kevin suggests stealing the Hummingbird Codex from the idols. The big dumb McMuffin that everyone wanted, but it is never explained what it is or what it does or why it's so valued or important. The Panteros wanted it, Marshall wanted it, the idols took it and kept it safe, and now the Saints want it seemingly for no other reason than everyone else wants it too. They also say Hells Yeah with a Z numerous times through this mission. Fucking stop. You fight through a nearby marina to get to the vault containing the McMuffin, only to find out it's a fake with a bomb and you're locked in the vault. You disarm the bomb, and the idols realize this. Now, what is the most logical thing to do here? Well, if the vault has ventilation, you could just take a page from Mr. Plinkett's book and fucking gas them like the hookers in his crawl space. If you don't want to do that, then just fucking leave the door locked for like a week, or even a month, just to make sure they're dead. They've got no way to get out themselves, and the chances of anyone being able to get to them, at least as far as the idols are concerned, is low to none. Instead, the idols decide to open it up and do this the fun way, which roughly translates to dying horribly to the unstoppable force that is the player. Realizing that the McMuffin isn't here, Kevin says it's probably at the idols HQ, on a yacht in the middle of the lake. You take an idol's jet ski to get to the yacht, and the controls for this thing are absolute dog shit. The game directs you to ramp onto the yacht even though you shouldn't need to. You fight your way through the ugly boat to the book, which also has a bomb that you disarm. Then plant the bomb in the control room of the ship. Why not plant it below the water level so you'll just sink the damn thing? An explosion isn't guaranteed to catch anything on fire. The collective members you saw on screen earlier show up to shoot down your escape helicopter, and then you kill them. They also have a death animation for their mask, because of course they do. Remember earlier, how the spinny idol moron sometimes takes a selfie mid-combat? Well, the collective members do too, and several nearby idols will all crowd around them when they do.
Urge to kill rising.
The bomb explodes, you escape to a boat, and Kevin drives around wasting time as the idols chase you, even going off fucking ramps instead of just beelining for the shore. This is such an extensive waste of time that he drives so far out into the lake and loops around near the yacht again, only to go in a direction he could have gone in from the start. Hopefully it's more than clear at this point what I mean when I say most of this game is padded out. It's like the developers were too incompetent to come up with anything sensible for a game about gang warfare, and instead had to stretch much of it out like it's doing here. Anyways, that's it. That's the mission. What does the book do? Still no fucking idea. I suppose this is an instance of nothing being better than anything, because these writers are clearly too inept to not make it stupid and annoying. We do get a cutscene where the boss talks up how great the Saints are to rally their gang.
Who messes with the Saints?
No one!
I said, who messes with the Saints?
No one!
You're goddamn right, no one. The Saints aren't a flash in the pan. We're here to stay. The four of us founded the Saints, but it belongs to all of us. It belongs to anyone who dreams of making something of themselves and are fucking tired of the world trying to hold them back. Life is hard enough without having to deal with middle managers with no discernible talent telling you how to do your job. Without having to deal with assholes who have had every opportunity handed to them but never had to fucking work for a single one of them. Without being told that your time will come, you just have to wait. Be patient. Well, let me tell you something. We're fucking done waiting.
Yeah, thanks for your Twitter rant. No one cares. Christ, this shit is annoying. Again, this is a game that's supposed to be about gang warfare. Why is this dumb fucking idiot rambling and ranting about talentless middle managers bossing you around? This does not fit in with the series. Non-compete clause introduces quite possibly one of the most idiotic plotlines ever conceived. Marshall now owns the Saints, due to a non-compete clause in the boss's employee contract from when they joined Marshall. Christ, stop showing this demon mutant cat.
Sorry folks, party's over.
Who the fuck are you?
Chet Drummond, Marshall General Counsel. The Saints are now a wholly owned subsidiary of Marshall Defense Industries.
No.
The employment agreement you signed when we hired you contained a non-compete clause.
I signed a lot of shit. I didn't actually read it.
So my issue immediately is that an organization of any kind is trying to claim ownership over a street gang. Part of the whole point of a street gang is that they're criminals who don't follow the law. Why would they give a fuck about some company claiming to own them? And why would a company waste its time and resources trying to claim ownership of something that would only ever make them look bad? See, the corporate hierarchy, as well as the legal system, is why when someone in position of power is fired, they no longer have power in the company. The people who work there are no longer your employees. They're employees of your replacement, and they risk their own jobs by ignoring their new boss. Let me remind you that this is an illegal street gang we're talking about. No contracts were signed by the individual gang members who joined. They have no loyalty to Marshall. The Saints aren't a corporate entity that can be bought out or have a corporate hostile takeover or anything of the sort. You cannot sue the Saints as an organization. Just when I thought this game couldn't get any more fucking stupid and inane, here we are with this bullshit plotline. Secondly, most contractual obligations end when the contract itself ends, aside from maybe both non-disclosure agreements and non-disparagement agreements, which even then typically have a lifespan of a few years to them. The point of a non-compete clause is to prevent you from competing against your employer, or revealing their trade secrets, or taking their customers due to your existing business relations with them, and even then, they can be hard to enforce sometimes. After all, are you really competing with your employer? Or are you doing your due diligence and offering the clients alternative options, thus trying to look to said clients as more trustworthy?
Not our problem. By attacking Marshall interests, to wit, the Frontier Prison, our cargo train, and various other assets, you became a competitor.
So, what's your fucking point?
Pursuant to Article 9, Section 12, Paragraph 36A, you have surrendered all rights and ownership of the Saints to us.
Yeah, that's not how that works. At all. This is absurdity. If you work for a company, get fired, then blow up their office, you're not a competitor for them. You're a psychotic vandal who will likely go to jail. The Saints don't run a prison. They don't run a cargo train. Nor do they offer official legally sanctioned protection services. They haven't taken your customers for any legitimate business deals, and they're not selling your trade secrets. They are a gang of criminals. Well, they're supposed to be a gang of criminals, but the writers of this game are inept. Violating a non-compete also doesn't typically grant ownership of your organization to your former employer. You can be sued for damages, and possibly even held to the clause, preventing you from working for their competitor for a time, but that doesn't mean your company is suddenly owned by them, especially with no actual court case to decide it. This is just fucking stupidity on every level.
Eli?
Oh my god, he's right.
Oh my god, he's right. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Jesus Christ, everyone in this fucking game needs to permanently stop breathing immediately. You are a street gang. This contract means jack shit. None of these characters should care about this in any way, shape, or form. This is what I've been referring to for this whole video now. These people are stupid and pathetic and don't act in the way that any actual gang member ever would. CJ would have told this guy to fuck off, and if he persisted, CJ would have either threatened or killed him. Johnny Gat would have fucking shot this guy immediately, and he'd shoot the next lawyer they send, and the next one, and the next one until they either stopped or ran out of lawyers to send.
Of course I'm right. I wrote the fine print myself.
This should have been the immediate response, and the conflict should have ended here.
You are aware that didn't solve the issue, right?
An issue that shouldn't even exist in the first place because the Saints are an illegal street gang committing crimes. An issue that shouldn't exist because the Saints aren't competing with Marshall. An issue that shouldn't exist because no company in their right mind would ever want to own a violent street gang. An issue that shouldn't exist because even if they tried, what the fuck do you think a street gang is going to do in retaliation?
Yeah, but he was being a dick.
I said stop showing that fucking ugly mutant cat. Fuck! Oh, and through the drive to Marshall headquarters, Eli goes on and on about how Atticus will fight them with red tape, it's a binding legal document, killing him won't solve anything, yada yada yada. I think the most obnoxious part is that this game is insisting so fucking hard that this dumb fucking plotline is one ever worth taking seriously when you're a street gang. You sell drugs, you kill people, you commit insurance fraud, you dump toxic nuclear waste in the city, you steal shit frequently, all among the other criminal enterprises you set up throughout the game. None of these fuckers cared about red tape when selling illegal drugs, or robbing a payday loan office, or killing scores of people. The game also wants us to take this shit seriously and think it's a real issue when it's not. It's a very, very special kind of annoying, where the logic of the situation is so beyond fucking broken that it boggles the mind how anyone could have thought this was a good idea to write. That anyone would care or take this seriously. What happens if Atticus Marshall fires the boss from the Saints? Would Neenah, Eli, and Kevin not follow the boss's orders anymore? How about the random street gangsters who joined because they like the Saints, or because they want to learn to kill as good as the boss does? Are they going to respect the boss being fired by a company that suddenly claimed to own the Saints? Are they afraid of being fired themselves? This is a plot that simply cannot and would not exist and does not work. This is peak dumb fuckery and I hate it. I hate that no one within the game is pointing out the fucking obvious, and I hate that the developers thought that this was a good idea, that this was a good mission to put into the game, that it made any kind of logical sense when it doesn't. I've talked about things not making sense before, but this makes negative sense. This is anti-sense. And more than anything else, this is yet more pointless filler fucking bullshit.
Oh, you... Ugh. God. Choking on my own rage here.
This is how you're going to end the conflict with Marshall. Really. It's not that you fucked with them so much that they're coming at you in force. It's this absurd, ridiculous, petty, stupid, limp-wristed fucking plot about them legally owning the Saints now. So now you've got to use the system against them? Because that's what this ends up being. Most of this mission is fighting through Marshall's HQ, only to find Atticus had fled the building when you arrived, leaving Myra Starr there, who agrees to help you dethrone Atticus from the company by tanking the stocks so the board will vote him out and she'll give the Saints back to the boss. That's how fucking stupid this is. Before we get to that though, just a few small things that happen in this mission.
You didn't get the memo! We own you!
It really is the logic being used that the gang would just roll over and accept Marshall as owning them. The developers really thought this was a plotline that made any sense.
So, did you really think you could just waltz into my building and take your little Saints back? This assault is nothing more than a temper tantrum. You go ahead. Shoot whomever you like. I'll rehire. Destroy the whole fucking building. I'll rebuild. And it won't change anything. I'll still own you, because I have more lawyers than you have bullets.
I'm pretty sure the amount of bullets in the USA vastly outnumber its population, let alone the population of lawyers. This is also more of the game trying to justify why this idiotic plot totally isn't idiotic. Also, I'm pretty sure if the people part of a street gang you own come into your building and kill your employees and even destroy it, that looks bad on you and your company. They throw in this rebuilding the building line as if a skyscraper being leveled is a slight inconvenience and not the catastrophe it really is.
Smells like privilege in here.
Nah, it's cool guys. There's nothing wrong with modern media. All those people complaining about woke messaging in games and movies are just haters. The people behind these amazing works of art aren't trying to push political ideology at all. Look, I usually try to avoid this shit because I'm personally more concerned about the overall quality of entertainment media, but I can't ignore this shit anymore. At least, not in this game. Why in the sweet mothers of fucks is this line in this game? We've seen quite often in the past several years now where beloved media is taken and bastardized for cheap political messaging, and the end product is rancid dog shit. The all-female Ghostbusters, which is about as funny as a funeral, and as entertaining as getting teeth pulled, is entirely lacking creativity. Star Wars and turning the old heroes into jokes and making them die pathetic deaths to prop up a cast of planks, chief among them is someone so perfect and infallible that she redefined what it meant to be a Mary Sue. Doctor Who breaking the glass ceiling and insulting the fans, only to shit all over and erase 60 years of lore and backstory. Terminator repeatedly undermining its classic heroes and killing them off, and giving them cheap replacements without even a fraction of the character. And Saints Row 2022 is just another example of this happening. You've got a beloved series of Grand Theft Auto clones known for being edgy and having raunchy humor, particularly being cranked up after Saints Row 3. A game about a violent gang wiping out enemy gangs without remorse and taking control of the city. And they took it, rebooted it for brand recognition, and fucking sanitized it. They sanded down the edges until we have this putrid sludge in which every main character is a pathetic loser. They spout off about the environment and not dealing with morally bankrupt companies and student loan debts and complaining about middle managers and people having it easy. And now we get a line about people being privileged. Fuck right the hell off with this shit. By the way, the shooting in this game is so bad that killing this mini-boss is pretty fucking annoying. He has a short cooldown where you have to shoot the two glowy things to expose another glowy thing that will do damage to him. If you miss a few shots or have to reload, you're fucked and have to wait until he goes on cooldown again. More of this game wasting your time rather than creating interesting fights. Severance Package is the follow-up to the previous mission. You get some override codes from Myra Star for an AI tank that Marshall has developed. Most of the mission is simply blowing shit up with it to tank company stocks. No pun intended.
Then how do you respond to reports of a rogue tank wreaking havoc in the city?
I say let a Marshall AI tank step in and stop it.
How do you respond to reports that the rogue tank is in fact a Marshall AI tank?
How dare you make false accusations? I'm gonna sue you, your paper, and your entire fucking family.
Huh, I didn't realize this game took inspiration from Acerthorn. Now stock's falling so hard and achieving the goal, that should be it, right? Well, no, the boss has the bright fucking idea to call Atticus to rub it in his face, revealing that they're the one driving the tank and doing this. You know, the kind of thing that might fuck over your entire plan severely, as it's highly in his interest to reveal this? Well, luckily for the boss, he never does this, for some reason. With stock so low, Eli bought up a bunch, giving the boss a seat on the board of Marshall, but that's not revealed yet. A cutscene plays where the board is about to vote to get rid of Atticus, who is naturally pissed off for all this happening. I can't help but notice shit like this, but this chair at the end of the table keeps changing positions, so you don't see that the boss is there, as it's supposed to be some kind of reveal. But this gets fucked here because as Myra is looking out the window, the back is turned to face her, meaning Atticus would be able to see the boss sitting there clear as day. And when Myra says, "Let's ask the tiebreaker," the chair changes position again, for the back to be facing Atticus, so the boss is completely obscured to him, where they wouldn't have been just a moment ago. You get the extremely pointless option of either shooting Atticus or firing him. Nothing happens either way. If you shoot him, he's dead. If you don't, he swears this isn't over, but you never hear from him again in the main story, as there's only 3 more missions after this. Myra signs the Saints back over to the boss. Myra then threatens that if you mess with Marshall again, you'll get the horns. Spoiler, this doesn't happen. If you haven't started enough criminal ventures yet, and if you haven't completed at least 2 of them, you can't move on to the final missions yet. But once you do, we get Afterparty. It starts with a cutscene echoing the start of the game, though it changes the setup to be different. The idiot crew are standing outside looking at the restored church, saying, "We built this," as if they weren't already in the party. The boss stays outside as the others enter, then the Nawali shows up.
Heard there's a party.
Hey! It's good to see you, man.
I've been thinking a lot about what you said. About the Saints. I've been alone for a long time. I always viewed friends as a liability, a weakness. But I was wrong. Seeing you with Kev, Neenah, Eli, they really make you stronger.
Yeah, they really do.
I want to know what that feels like.
Well, let's go! Why?
Well, because I cannot live your life if you are still breathing.
I find it fucking hilarious that his head clips through her hat here. Fucking whoops! Anyways, yeah, this is the point where the Nawali turns into a stupid cartoon villain. He's been offered to not only join the Saints, but he'd be part of the inner circle, the leadership. And instead of accepting that, he tries to kill the boss to replace them. As if anyone is just going to accept that.
Look, you have a lot of heart, but let's face it, I'm just a better version of you. You could not even protect yourself. How would you ever protect your friends if someone like me came along, huh?
I think the developers realized they forgot to make any kind of proper antagonist, because the enemy gangs in Marshall weren't the core focus of the story. In fact, you could almost say there was no real core focus to the story. And they realized they needed to end this somehow. So now the Nawali is just crazy and evil for this final showdown, even though there's been no build-up or hint towards this sudden heel turn.
This is for the best. Do not worry. I'll keep our friends safe.
What kind of fucking logic is this? I really don't get it. We're all friends and like each other, and work well together, but I'm a better version of you, so I'm just gonna kill you and take your place. But don't worry, I'll keep our friends safe. What the fuck is this writing? As if this game wasn't fucking insufferable enough, we get sent to the gayest possible version of the Shadow Realm. Once again, this is more padding on the game because of the utter ineptitude of the developers to create something that isn't complete dog shit. You slowly walk through this place, seeing things that remind the boss of their friends. Neenah's car, with a spotlight shining on it, and repeating one of her lines of dialogue from earlier about her family. The second and last time they're ever mentioned.
My family's so far away, you know? My family's so far away, you know?
Literally just a reused line. Is this supposed to be meaningful? Then Eli's whiteboard is there, as if it's special or something. They gave so little characterization to him that the thing that appears in the boss's near-death experience coma dream is a fucking whiteboard. Kevin gets a waffle maker, and the boss questions if they ever got one for him. Characters so shallow, they're entirely defined by one singular object, and not in any meaningful way, but just something they're somewhat associated with. You can't run in this part either, just to waste more of your time. At the end of this section, you reach the game board from Game Night. Now you're in the board game world. I'd like to remind you that the boss just got stabbed and buried alive, and we're getting this infantile waste of time horse shit. You waste a bunch of time collecting the animals for each friend, until the boss realizes something is wrong, and the friends turn all creepy and they try to convince you to stay. Representing dying, I guess.
Hey, glad you made it. You've got some catching up to do, but you might still win if you collect 3 more bears. And I can help you with that. If you get me 7 measly little llamas, I will give to you this extremely valuable bear.
7 to 1? That's highway robbery. But I'm in.
I've got almost a full collection of elephants, but the baby ran away. Got a second bear for you if you can find it for me.
1 baby elephant coming up.
Then I'll run you.
Don't run. It's okay.
Snail strategy tonight. Find me 3 snails, and I will give you this bear I just happen to have in my hand.
Last bear for the win.
They're hiding, but come on. You can outsmart snails, can't you?
One snail. Oh, sodding snakes.
Hey, nobody made you buy the expansion. Last bear for the win.
This shit is so fucking insufferable. Inside the bar, the boss realizes what happens and tries to escape the corrupt demonic nightmare board game land, with a friend saying mean things to them as the boss approaches each of them, while the Nawali taunts them and laughs at them.
Help! Anybody there?
I'm here! Kevin, I'm here! Kev?
I wasn't calling you. Don't you get it? You're just not a good enough friend.
No. I'm coming too. No. This is total bullshit. You can't just cut me out of the loop. I can do whatever the fuck I want. It's one of the perks of running a gang. Is Pierce talking shit again? Because I don't care what. This doesn't have anything to do with Pierce. If a strung-out DJ almost took you out, a crazy motherfucker like Sunshine will tear you apart. I don't have time to babysit you. You won't have to babysit. Stick to tactics, Shaundi. This conversation is over. What? Why can't I move?
Because you can't do anything right. You ruin everything. That's why you needed me. Now you're dead, and everything you built is mine. Your friends are mine, your empire is mine. The Saints are all mine.
Like hell they are.
Alright, so how did the boss get out of their graves so easily? I mean, at the start of the game it was a giant mound. Not enough to simply fill in the hole, but a whole shit ton more. Oh, in this version of reality, the Nawali didn't even finish burying you for some reason. Fucking why? Why would he not finish burying you? Anyways, all your gang members are dead and their roommates have been kidnapped.
Everything smells amazing, Kev.
You know what would make it smell even better?
Let me guess. Pancakes.
You know it.
Hey, look who's home.
How was your day?
Not bad. I got some blood on my favorite shirt.
Sounds like you could use some champagne.
Thanks, Eli. Please, sit. So, what did you all do today?
You know what we did.
You're upset.
You think?
I do not like to see you upset.
Well, maybe you should have thought of that before.
Neenah, please.
We'll discuss your gratitude later. Hello.
Where are they?
They're safe.
I am coming for you, motherfucker!
Good. It'll save me some time. I'm sorry. That threw me off. Okay. We'll try this again with a little more energy. And Kev, be sure to have some club soda ready, eh? I don't want this stain to set.
Everything smells amazing, Kev.
What the fuck is even happening here? Okay, so the Nawali hangs his gun on the key rack, just as the boss did at the start of the game, and he's got a movie set replica of their home that he's forcing them to roleplay as themselves in, and he's forced Kevin to wear a shirt. No, really, what the fuck is this shit? What is this supposed to tell me? Besides that the Nawali is crazy as fuck. Is that the entire point? Is that he's literally just a madman doing nonsense because he is actually crazy? Because that's all I'm getting from this. And there has been nothing in the entire rest of the game to set this up in any way. Same as the betrayal. At every point, he seemed sane and acted fairly logically given the situations we see him in, and at absolute worst, he started getting infected by the stupidity of these characters. But now he's just turned into a demented weirdo, seemingly obsessed with acting out his fantasies of having friends by kidnapping people who were actually friends to him. It's total nonsense. This immediately leads into high noon. The boss says they need guns, however, your gun stash is either locked or emptied for some reason. The game disallows you from using any aircraft you've got stored, nor does it allow you to use your stored vehicles. So you use whatever car is out front, and you have to sit through the voicemail messages of the morons as the boss desperately tries to call them and leaves messages. The boss goes to the Nawali safe house, takes his guns, which is really just your guns in his armory. Some of his nameless gang members show up and you kill them. It is a failed state to not kill them, with an incredibly short timer to return to the zone, so if you're not expecting it, you're probably fucked. The only lead the boss has is when the Nawali says to finish this where it began, meaning the Wild West town from the start of the game. It's amazing we've come such a long way for so much nothing this game has to offer. So much pain and suffering from having to deal with these characters and quests. All for it to be entirely pointless. The boss then puts on the stupid be your own boss motivational speech. There's no point to this. It's a bunch of meaningless claptrap, and as with the other times it's been forced on you, as with all the other times music has been forced on you for missions, you cannot turn it off. Part of the grand finale of the game is listening to this chucklefuck's shitty fake motivational speech, rather than something epic or tense. Hey, remember when one of the final missions of Saints Row 3 had holding out for a hero playing in a similar situation, where you're racing to save Shondi? I hate that Saints Row 3 turned the series into wacky, silly bullshit, but it still had some good moments, and that was one of them. It did a real fucking great job of adding tension and urgency to the situation, not to mention getting you pumped, and made you want to rush to save this character. This motivational speech crap is about as lame and pathetic as you can get, and I could not be less motivated to do this mission. They don't give a real sense of urgency, and they haven't made these characters deep enough, nor endearing enough to care about.
Okay, best get psyched. Oh no.
But only you can decide how you react to adversity.
You can't make it to both, and you can't let Shondi die. Fuck Killbane. He ain't worth losing our girls.
Killbane is why you are here. Don't let everything Shondi and Viola had fought for be for nothing.
Only you can choose to adapt to the changes that life throws your way. Your friends deserve better. You deserve better. You are more than a cog in a corporate machine.
I need you to help me locate.
I know, I'm at the dock. Come here fast.
Got it.
You are not defined by your student debt or your useless degree. You have more agency and power than the world wants you to know.
Saw on the cameras what happened. There's bomb.
But to realize that power, there's something you need to do. You need to be your own boss. Of your job, of your happiness, of your life. You don't make $15 an hour, no. You're selling hours of your life away for 15 bucks a piece. So what do I say to the person who wants to get paid what they deserve? That's right. Be your own boss.
Anyways, you eventually make it back to the Wild West town, only for this stupidity to happen.
You gonna come out and face me, or do I gotta come to you like last time? See you soon. Alright, here's the deal. You motherfuckers know where your boss is keeping my friends, so how about you just tell me, and then I can be on my way. Any takers? I know it's not likely, but, you know, I figure I should do due diligence. It's really in your best interest. I only need one of you alive to tell me what I need to know, and the odds of it being you is pretty... You know what? Fuck it, I tried.
So they surround the boss but don't do fucking anything. One of them easily has the drop on the boss but doesn't kill them. And they just let the boss ramble the fuck on instead of doing anything, while all these copy-pasted enemies just kinda stand around like idiots, until the boss shoots one, and none of them even react. Then once the cutscene is over, you're no longer surrounded. You kill the nameless gang members, then you kill some more, and some more, and some more, until the boss finally realizes that the Nawali isn't here. Then you kill even more gang members, until the game decides to play this ridiculous cutscene.
Dude, I've had a long fucking day. Can we please be reasonable people?
I can't...
You're gonna say you can't tell me because the Nawali will kill you, then I'll say, if you don't tell me, I'll kill you. And we're just gonna be right back to where we started, so let's just skip that part.
No, I was gonna say I can put the address in your phone.
Oh. Yeah, no. That'd be super helpful.
You mind unlocking it?
Oops, sorry about that.
You're a fucking maniac.
Well, you know, I have a lot of practice and pent-up rage.
I heard that.
Parents?
Alimony. Anyway, secret bunker address is in there.
Thanks, man.
I'm George, by the way.
You're an alright guy, George. When you wake up, you should stop by the church. The saints could use a guy with some common sense.
Oh!
Now, let's see if my biometrics still work on this VTOL.
God, the boss just reminds me of the absolute lowest tier of Marvel humor. Early on, it was handled well in the MCU, but it's devolved to a point of simply characters making unfunny quips almost non-stop, and that's basically what the boss is. I am so fucking tired. Why would you punch this guy out when he just helped you, and doesn't seem intent on harming you in any way? Just fucking let him go, man. This leads directly into the final mission of the game, Showdown. You fly the damaged VTOL to the bunker, in what appears to be an abandoned casino. Why does this VTOL still work perfectly fine when you blew up the engine with a gun earlier? Wait, how does it have its cover back too?
Enjoy the afterlife. Quite entertaining.
You weren't in the afterlife, you dumb fuck. You weren't dead.
Got a bloody VTOL, you dumb fuck.
You can't even slow me down.
Need I say more? You kill the baddies outside the casino, then make your way inside. Then you kill a bunch of baddies inside as the Nawali taunts you. I'm not even gonna bother with this first cutscene as we don't get anything new from it. It's just the Nawali being a crazy fuck for no reason still. After killing your way through the place, this happens.
Do not worry, my friends. Things are going back to the way they were.
Shoot him. Shoot him in the fucking head. Do it!
You guys okay?
We're fine.
No, stop. Fucking shoot the Nawali and end this, you dumb fuck.
Why is Kev wearing a shirt?
Oh, it's so long. Look out!
Told ya.
Don't you see? You were never meant to protect them!
As in, it was never your destiny to protect them?
You don't get it. They don't need my help. I need this.
No. No, not really. If anything, you could argue these weirdos only really held the boss back. Eli was useless with a gun until you taught him how to shoot, and even then he's a pathetic weirdo that convinced you that Marshall owning the Saints meant anything. What does Kevin really do? I guess he knew the guys who made the Wanted app, but that entire mission was stupid and contrived as all hell. And Neenah? She's just kind of some fucking bint. I guess she saved you that one time when she used her IRL hacks to turn gravity off. And remember, we're talking about protection here. You were never meant to protect them. You don't get it. They don't need my help, I need theirs! These characters aren't known for their combat skills. They kinda just do it as it's necessary throughout the game. The boss is the one that the game repeatedly tells us is an unstoppable killing machine.
You're fucked now, buddy.
It is fucking hilarious. that the developers thought this was some kind of awesome, badass moment, with all these losers standing up to the Nawale. This turns into an overextended, poorly coded, and underwhelming boss fight. The Nawale will throw smoke bombs, then run off at super fast speed, but it doesn't always work, and he doesn't always throw them in the right place. He throws one immediately, and stands there for quite a while before running off. He also throws one at the top of the stairs nowhere near where he's even standing, and isn't useful to him in any way, then runs off. You chase him around until he runs through a set of doors that magically close behind him. You cannot open these doors until the roommates show up and open them for you. The chase continues until you reach another door that magically closes and won't open until the roommates tell you to go ahead. When Setch played, the Nawale bugged out and stopped moving at the first set of doors until his programming caught up with him and told him to run through. Why the fuck can the boss not open these doors without the roommates or their permission? It just goes to show how overly scripted this shit final encounter is. On the upper floors, the Nawale is now in a helicopter and you shoot it down with rockets and he lands on the roof. They try to have this epic sunset showdown thing that the game has not earned in the fucking slightest. God, look how shitty and jittery this looks. Both the boss and the Nawale shoot at the same time, at fairly close range. Somehow he misses, and the boss's shot hits him, killing him. Hold on. Hold right the fuck up. Did you just fucking fan the hammer on a goddamn Glock? A gun that does not fucking have a hammer? You can even see this on the gun model in the weapon stasher in the store. Even at the fucking finish line, this game can't help but fuck shit up in obnoxious ways.
You ruined everything.
You know, had you done this like 10 minutes ago, you wouldn't have had to do all this shit. I'm actually really glad they all decided to sit down here and not leave the building that's on fucking fire. I like to imagine the floor collapsing from under them, plunging them all into the inferno, and killing them all. And that's it! That is the main story of Saints Row 2022. Yep, this is how it ends! What irredeemable fucking garbage from start to finish. Here we are at the end, and I don't even know what the point of the story was at all. Now there are a couple post-game missions, but that's really only to build the Saints Tower, and that is a massive grind costing millions of dollars, and fully completing every criminal venture. And honestly, I just don't care to see it. I don't see any point in wasting all this time doing all this side bullshit for the sake of building a tower I don't care about, for a gang I don't care about, and for people I don't fucking care about. Maybe there's a tiny nugget of gold somewhere in this Mount Everest of shit, but I'm not going to be the one to find it. I'm done with this fucking game, and I'm glad that I never ever have to touch it again. So, what is there to say? You never really took the fight to the enemy gangs. They just happened to show up frequently by happenstance, or because some other goal you had, such as helping JR, required you to go after these enemy gangs. This is a game where most of its main content is pointless filler. The Saints don't even exist until nearly the halfway point. Then there's a couple missions to get them established, the 2 missions preparing to rob the train, as well as one actually robbing it, the 2 missions to get the Saints' ownership back from Marshall, then the finale, going after the only character that was half-decently well written, until they randomly decided to make him go fucking crazy. He says they never had friends because they're a liability, and he can't trust people, yet he runs a gang! How do you lead a gang if there's literally no one you can ever trust? But the game also proves him to be correct, as one of his gang members just gives him up. Overall, it feels as though both the Pateros and the Idols were included, not because the developers wanted them to be in the game, and they had any story to tell with them, but because it's a game where you're part of a gang that fights enemy gangs, and as a result, they were required to have enemy gangs to fill that role. In all honesty, both of the enemy gangs and Marshall feel like an afterthought, but that then raises the question as to what they're even an afterthought to, as there seems to be no primary focus for the story of this game. I've said it numerous times through this video, but most of this game feels like filler. I guess you could say that the story is about building the Saints into a gang, but was this really the best way to tell that story? Well, the short answer is no. The long answer is fuck no. The problem is that most of the missions feel like you're meandering about aimlessly while not actually progressing anything in the world. In Saints Row 1, 2, and even 3, it felt like you were making a difference with each mission you did. In Taints Row, it feels like the enemy gangs were mandated to be there, and they're never given the same kind of personality or presence as the enemy gangs did in the previous games. Instead of the missions spending time building up both the Saints and the enemy gangs, or the world, or the characters, in any substantive or meaningful way, the missions in Taints Row only shows the Saints, the enemy gangs, and nearly every character to be stupid, pathetic, flat, and insufferable. I think that's why the writers put so much emphasis on the fact that Kevin never wears a shirt, because they were so inept at writing actual characters that they thought that not wearing a shirt was a unique and interesting character trait. I've said it 1,000 times and I'll say it again. This game takes every opportunity not to build these characters into not to be fucked with gangsters, but only ever undermines any potential intimidation factor they might have ever had, and only ever portrays them as pathetic hipsters. The developers have taken a raunchy and edgy series about brutal gang warfare and turned it into the sanitized fucking mush of distasteful nothingness, where jokes like rim jobs and freckle bitches is too spicy, where you frequently hear pandering to a particular set of political ideology, where instead of characters talking about killing motherfuckers, they talk about how they'd miss you if you died because you're their friend, where what is supposed to be a violent street gang is all concerned and worried about a legal contract that almost certainly wouldn't be held up in a court of law, and even if it could be, it's an illegal fucking street gang. What are you gonna do, arrest them? You don't work towards taking down the enemy gangs, as in the previous games, but their bosses get killed in the main mission. Well, most of them anyways. Depending on how much of the stupid side content you do, you might not even kill all of the collective by the end of the game, leaving that as an unresolved loose end. If you leave Atticus Marshall alive, he vows vengeance, leaving that as an unresolved loose end. I'm not sure you could have butchered this entire thing harder if you fucking tried. But speaking of the characters, let's talk about them in a bit more depth, shall we? Don't worry, this won't take long, because they didn't really give me a whole lot to work with here. And let's start off with our man, Sergio. What do we know about him? Well, we're told he's quick to anger and he's hard-headed. He shows up 3 times in total in the entire game. Once during the convoy, once during Neenah's car, and finally one last time during the train heist, where he immediately fucking dies. He comes across less as a villain or antagonist, and more like a plot device that had stopped being useful and was discarded, as were the Panteros, and we never learn enough about him to view him as anything more than the plot device he is. Even in the original Saints Row, where the writing wasn't super amazing, the main antagonists were all characterized fairly well. They came across as a force to be reckoned with, and all had their own way of doing things. There's so little to Sergio that you can't really say much about him. Ben King was a wise leader that didn't act rashly. He used his alliance with the police against the Saints, and his original intent was to end gang violence, even though that got away from him. He was also very slow to resort to extreme violent tactics, causing those directly under him to usurp his control and trying to kill him. Sergio is kind of an angry asshole, I guess. Hector Lopez, who already doesn't get much screen time, is characterized as being the more rational but firm leader of the two brothers, playing things carefully and trying to protect their alliance with the Colombians.
Angelo, you are my brother and I love you. But if you let your dick fuck things up with the Colombians, I'm gonna cut it off.
Forgive me, Hector.
Don't let it happen again.
¿Y qué fue eso?
Those pendejos in St. Row are the ones who took the shipment. With the Colombians arriving, we can't show any weakness.
The Colombians are already here.
All the more reason to settle this now. Victor, Angelo, gather your men together. It's time to tear Saints Row apart.
While his brother Angelo Lopez is a hot-headed, reckless, and rash one who acts without thinking and destroys the Carnales' alliance with the Colombians. Sergio really cares about his car, I guess? William Sharp is the cold, intelligent, and ruthless leader of the West Side Rollers, who kills Lynn and attempts to kill Playa by locking them in the trunk of a car and pushing it into the ocean. he tries to get her friend Donnie to help him do so. He's also sarcastic and very clearly doesn't like Donnie or Lynn, seeming to simply put up with them until he realizes Lynn is a traitor. Once he dies, Price takes over, who is the opposite in some ways, seeking vengeance through pure brute force, rather than intelligent planning, but he's also shown to be someone whose friends are very dear to him. Sergio... I don't know. I got nothing. He's mean, I guess? Yelly man bad, sad face. I don't even think William Sharp, Hector Lopez, or Joseph Price are particularly strong or fleshed out characters, but they still got more depth than fucking Sergio does. It's like Volition realized the gang needs a leader, so they made Sergio, then had him do basically fucking nothing. The Collective, however, somehow managed to make Sergio look like he's got the depth of a goddamn ocean in comparison. There is nothing to them aside from being typical Idol members and having unique helmets from the others. There's no discernible personality for them, and they get so little screen time that there's basically nothing to work with as far as any kind of character analysis goes. There is so absurdly little here to work with that that's actually all I can really say on the matter of the Collective. The last two I haven't encountered aren't even a part of any particular mission, but side content. Atticus Marshall seems to be little more than a poor cartoonish stereotype of the quick-to-anger big boss who expects perfection and cares a little for others. Unfortunately, his characterization seems to end here as well, and I don't think there's much to say about him because we simply do not see enough of him to get any kind of grasp of who he is. It doesn't help that the game treats him more like a joke than any kind of actual antagonist. The Nawale is characterized early on as extremely competent and highly dangerous, a trait he keeps for most of the game. When not fighting against him, he's shown to be a rather reasonable and rational person, being understanding of having to follow orders, simply enjoying his freedom and walking in the fresh air, and being interested in this train heist, to which he is baffled beyond reason when he gets the team building day shit dropped on him. At first seemingly viewing the whole thing as nonsense, which it was, but he seemingly grows into accepting these weirdos, and by the end of the train heist, all seems fine. Only for this version of the Nawale to die, and get replaced by a fucking psychotic skinwalker Nawale, whose goals and understanding of the world make no sense in the slightest. I'm still completely baffled as to why the writers decided to take this direction with him, turning him into a stupid cartoon villain for no reason. It defies all logic and everything we've been told about this character from the start. This leads us to the boss. Killing Machine, an obnoxious jokey jokester. What more is there to really say? That seems to be the extent of the boss's personality. Playa, for obvious comparison, doesn't have much characterization in the original game, but they have a ton in the second, some of which depends on what voice you picked for your character. The version of Playa I had was a bit sassy, but overall, Playa is a badass, who didn't take anyone's shit and always cared about the Saints. Not in a sappy, we'll miss our friend if you die sort of way, but in a I'll fucking murder you and everyone you love for fucking with us sort of way. For fuck's sake, they bury a dude alive for ruining a funeral. Playa shoots up a courthouse to rescue Johnny Gat. Playa mixes nuclear fucking waste into tattoo ink to fuck with the Brotherhood. Then to take vengeance on them for killing Carlos, he locks Mayro's girlfriend in the trunk of her own car, places it in the derby arena to get run over by him, then tosses him the fucking keys so he could find his girlfriend's mangled corpse in the trunk.
Please let me out of here!
I'm gonna kill you right here, right now.
No, you're not.
What's this?
Do me a favor. When you check the trunk, just remember you should have offered me something better than 20%.
Then Playa cripples his friend to get information, which makes it so he can't play guitar in his band anymore.
Back off. What's the shipment?
The fuck are you talking about?
Don't fuck with me, Matt. You got a lot of gear on this stage I haven't played with yet.
You gotta believe me. I just tattooed the gang. They don't fill me in on what they're doing.
All that time you inked up Marrow and you never heard him talk about a shipment with Jessica?
All I heard is that it's coming in by boat. They leave me out of the loop on purpose. They were trying to keep me from getting mixed up in their shit.
Your friend should have tried harder.
Come on, I told you everything I know.
Enjoy your retirement, Matt. Hey, Shondi. You know anyone that works at the docks?
Not really.
Looks like you get to make some new friends. Merrick's got a shipment coming in by boat, and I want to get it before he does.
Okay, I'll take care of it.
Playa is a ruthless, cruel, and possibly even psychotic motherfucker who cracks wise when it's safe to do so, but gets down to fucking business when the going gets tough, and will do horrible things to their enemies to bring them down. The boss is an idiot who can't shut the fuck up for 5 seconds, and rambles frequently and aimlessly to the point of obnoxiousness. Their only discernible trait is being good at killing, which a game repeatedly beats you over the head with, and not much else is done with them. Playa never bragged about being good at killing like this, because there's more to them as a person, especially in Saints Row 2. Playa also never prattled on at fucking length for no good reason when surrounded by enemies, because those enemies also wouldn't pointlessly stand around and not do anything. Playa wanted them dead, and they wanted Playa dead, and neither side wasted their time on this stupid inane fucking bullshit. Seriously, what the fuck is this? Sure, the boss cares about their roommates, but fucking why? Some pre-established history we're never told about and is never explored? The starting point is that these people are already your friends. Playa cares about Gad and the others so much because they've worked with them, doing missions for the Saints. They've fought by each other's sides repeatedly, and that care isn't shown with the gang playing infantile children's games, or talking about how much they care about each other. It was shown by fighting alongside them, saving their asses, protecting them when they're down or unable to protect themselves. Neenah? I don't even know what I can really say about her. Does she have a personality to talk about at all? I guess she's girl. Oh yeah, she has her family, that's mentioned in one mission, then never again, and she cares about her car. That makes her super deep. Kevin's entire personality comes down to 3 things. He doesn't wear a shirt, he likes to cook, and he's bisexual, so he's fucked 1,000 people and he's a sexual deviant.
Kevin is, shall we say, a little tied up at the moment?
Wow, I did not know that detail. Idols. Wait a minute. Kev's not the fun kind of tied up.
Now I know some people are going to try to defend that last point by pointing at Shondi in Saints Row 2, but they're handled differently. Shondi having a bunch of ex-boyfriends in Saints Row 2 was more of a joke than anything else. Sure, you could argue that it was maybe a bit of a lazy way to give the gang key information, but the only other way that would have been presented was by nameless randos giving the gang the same info. They even lampshade it, when Shondi hasn't actually slept with someone who has the information they need, so the Saints are going to have to get the information a different way for once. With Kevin, it often gets brought up in situations where it's not even relevant to anything, and they go out of their way to say he's into weird fetishy bullshit. Both Kevin and Neenah just kind of feel like they're there to fill out their group, and have slight ties to the 2 enemy gangs. Then we get Eli, the fucking dud. The guy who wants his street gang to operate like a fucking corporate entity that cares about superfluous bullshit over anything that a criminal organization would actually care about. Eli, the man so goddamn weak and pathetic that Steve fucking Urkel could break him like a fucking twig. This is the crew that Volition decided to build the new Saints upon. No Dex, no Troy, no Julius, no Johnny motherfucking Gat.
Watch yourself, Mr. Gat.
Or what? You'll hold me in contempt of court? You're already planning on giving me the chair. You think I'd give a shit about you not liking me? Fuck off.
I'm curious if you can keep your cavalier attitude when 2,000 volts are running through your body.
Oh yeah? And I'm curious if you can keep acting like a douchebag when I shove that gavel up your ass.
No Shaundi, no Pierce, not even any of the fucking weirdos from Saints Row 3, but a bunch of pathetic fucking insufferable lameways who at every opportunity are shown to be obnoxiously unintelligent and exceedingly inept, and the result is one of the most insufferable groups of characters I've seen in a game. I'm not even saying that you absolutely need the exact crews of the original 2 games, but at least characters somewhat like them. At the end of Saints Row 2, I wanted to see more of Shaundi, Pierce, Johnny Gat, and Playa and what they get up to. While I don't like the direction Saints Row 3 took, I would have liked to see a different version of that game that is more in line with the first 2. I don't want to see any of these fuckers ever again. Hell, I wish I could have all memory of this game permanently fucking erased from my mind. Now, I already know one of the defenses for this game is going to be something along the lines of, who cares about story in a Saints Row game? Because this type of bad faith defense is common with poorly made media. So first of all, I fucking care. Setch fucking cares, as do many other people. Secondly, the story is the reason for doing anything in these games in the first place. The story is what most people remember from these games. The gameplay in these games is admittedly very repetitive. Shoot the baddies, drive and don't destroy the vehicle, shoot the baddies from the vehicles, destroy the objects, and while it may come in many different flavors, the core essence is largely the same, putting bullets into your enemies or their stuff. The difference is that a story you find compelling can leave you wanting more by the end, which I did at the end of Saints Row 1 and 2. I wasn't tired of shooting scores of nameless generic baddies, nor was I tired of the setting of Stillwater, or the story of the 3rd Street Saints, because I found the story and characters of these games to be compelling and interesting. With Saints Row 2022, I couldn't wait for the game to be over, because every moment was insufferable, where I hated the characters, I hated the sad excuse for a story that they were trying to tell, and the stupid decisions the characters were making constantly, and the repetitive gameplay grew old fast, especially since the controls were pretty jank at times, and shooting never felt satisfying, but clunky and annoying, like a chore. Playing Saints Row 1 on totally legitimate hardware, with an Xbox controller, was irritating at times, because aiming with a joystick is so shit, it was actually easier to make your character run back and forth, side to side, to land the crosshair over the enemy, than it was to aim the gun towards the enemy, and I'd still prefer doing that if it meant I got more content in the style of the original 2 games over any of the content in Saints Row 2022. Overall, this game just fucking sucks ass, and I haven't found any redeemable qualities about it. The Nawali being reasonable was the only thing the game had going for itself, and it ruined that. And that's about all I've got to say about this game. This shit is in name only territory, because it retains none of what made the original so good, while only reusing the name and copying the superficial elements. Don't play it. Don't buy it, not even on sale. If it's on sale for 1 cent, don't buy it, because it's still not worth it, and because it's going to be a waste of your time. This game is vile sludge, and the people responsible should be fucking embarrassed for having inflicted this nonsense upon the world. Which reminds me, real fucking great look from the official Twitter account to be posting haters gonna hate gifs, and for one of the developers to post the shitty strawman comic because he couldn't take his shit fucking game being criticized for being the massive rancid turd that it is. No, Dingleberry, no one is telling anyone to stop having fun. They're saying your bad game is bad. Hey, actual pro tip to any creatives out there, don't fucking do this shit. It makes you look bad, immature, and pathetic to attack the fans. But what's even more pathetic is that you'd be proud enough of this shit stain of a game that you'd post shit like this.
What a fucking disgrace.
As for the haters gonna hate post, what horrible, vile thing was said to them in order to warrant such a response? I know you won't listen, but if you want fans to stop complaining and giving y'all shit, maybe, just maybe replace these clowns and give us the real saints. Doesn't even have to be the old crew, just real gangsters. That would honestly clear up a lot of the hate you guys are getting. Oh wait, it was a totally reasonable and rational criticism. It was certainly a lot nicer than anything I've said in this video. Yeah, the reaction from the developers has been nothing short of pathetic, with even one of their community managers jumping in and making things worse. So, you think we should give in to terrorist behavior? Also, these people are out of touch with what Saints Row is actually about. Times have changed, and Saints with them. I won't reinforce this behavior. These are not people we want as fans or in the community. Where to start with this one? Well, I mean, first off, gotta love how criticism of a terrible game is now terrorist behavior. How fucking insane and out of touch do you need to be to liken criticism to terrorism? Complaints about a bad game, and setting off bombs or blowing up buildings to hurt and kill innocent people? Yeah, it's totally the same. Out of touch with what Saints Row is actually about. Are you talking about the overall series or Saints Row 2022? Because neither answer makes sense. The originals were largely about gang warfare, which this one isn't really. Saints Row 2022? I'm honestly having trouble grasping onto anything that this game could actually be about. Honestly, it's a whole lot of nothing for the most part. It's about a group of weirdos forming the dumbest criminal empire ever, and succeeding because the script says they do. I'm not sure there's a way to be in touch with that. Times have changed, and the Saints with them. So the classic, we're updating this for a modern audience, which roughly translates to, we're stripping out all the elements that actually made this thing good, dumbing it down, readjusting it for modern political messaging, taking all the bite and edge out and only keeping the superficial elements, which is often the name of the product, and in this case, a purple gang, the church, 3rd Street, and the floor. Which is all this game has in common with the originals. Good fucking job there. I can't imagine why fans of Saints Row are annoyed with a Saints Row game that has nothing substantive in common with the original Saints Row games. These are not people we want as fans or in the community. Another classic. Attack the fans for being critical of the shit you produce. Yes, I'm sure many companies would love to only have fans that mindlessly consume the rancid sludge they pump out, without even the slightest hint of critical thought, so no effort or quality actually has to be put into the product. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised by this kind of behavior at this point, since it's par for the course now, but I can't help but be absolutely baffled that this shit just keeps happening over and over and over again, where a shit product is made, fans complain, and the people working on the project attack the people who are supposed to be their customers as if they're in the wrong for pointing out the product is shit, instead of just mindlessly gobbling it up, and they haven't learned from the countless times this has happened to other companies in the past. Somehow the fucking Sonic movie got this right, by listening to criticism. Then some media outlets came out against listening to fan criticism. This entire era of directors, actors, the media, and anyone else working on these projects complaining about fan entitlement is nothing more than a bunch of lazy fucks who just want instant success with none of the work. They want to use every franchise as a platform to fucking preach at you, and they don't even put in the bare minimum of effort to make their product any good. Then they get mad and act like bitches when the fans complain about being served dog shit. I know these worthless hacks are super duper proud of the whole be your own boss thing, but that's not an option for them as a company. It's an important lesson to learn that as a company that produces a product, neither your parent company nor the CEO is your real boss. The customers are. Because if you alienate those fans, if you make products that they dislike, if you call them terrorists and tell them to go away, that you don't want them as fans or in your community, then you lose those customers, and with no one to replace them, then who's going to pay your bills? The most important part of any company is the customer, and if you make them your enemy, then you won't last long. Look at what happened to the revival of G4. Have fun with that, I guess. As a final bonus round, here are some bugs I experienced while playing. During the Neenah's car mission, one of the groups of Panteros I was supposed to kill didn't show up because they got caught in the world. In order to take them out, I had to leave the mission area and go back in before the time ran out a couple times. Twice during The Forge, Neenah's AI broke. First time she teleported into the control room, second time she wouldn't go to the escape car, and the mission had to be reset to the checkpoint. During the Fast and the Foodiest, the car with the toys was considered destroyed, resulting in a fail state, even though it wasn't destroyed at all. There's an issue with the helicopter that both Setch and myself experienced, that resulted in the camera being completely fucked, making the helicopter completely unusable unless the game is restarted.
I'm gonna skull fuck that bitch.
Hope you don't mind hepatitis.
What?
Hey, I finally made a video without mentioning Fallout.